Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Purdy over the middle and intercepted. Tejada down the sideline and pushed out of bounds.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Looking for the equalizer. He wants it all on one play, and he's got it. Beautifully designed. Ben Sims, the tight end, into the end zone for the touchdown.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Williams in motion, they'll roll, Daniels out. Down he goes behind the 20, Terrell Bernard with a sack, and number 2 flexes for the camera.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Monday afternoon, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports on YouTube, and there is, as it seemed like every day, and even over the weekend, there was news about the realignment and alliances, and we'll hear from Don Williams, who is a senior writer for the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, covers Texas Tech, had a comment or two with Kirby Hocutt, the Texas Tech athletic director, about the alleged alliance that Max Olson reported over the weekend with the 3 conferences, ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12, and his thoughts about it, Kirby Hocutt's thoughts about it. Don Williams will join us at 3:10. Max will join us at 4:30 about it. Also, another top 25 preseason poll is out, and we'll get into that, dig into that. We'll also check in on Georgia today and Oklahoma State today. Paul's top 5 at 5:55. Paul, Catalina, Craig Smoak, David Smoak, all back together for right now, for this week, at least for today. In the next 2 or 3 days, we have high school football that starts full throttle in Texas as far as games next week. All right, Paul, the alliance, the story by Max Olson. When you saw, read, or heard about it, what was your initial response?
My initial response was, why wasn't the Big 12 there? Why are they not invited? And then I kind of went into a spiral of thinking, like, well, what can these schools do? I mean, if these 3 conferences, doesn't mean that that's final, but like it does concern me that the other 3 conferences would meet without them. And it makes me wonder if they've just already determined, like, there's nothing that these schools can do for them. And it's not like you can just make yourself into something else. I mean, you can't be Danny DeVito for all your time and then say, no, now today I'm George Clooney. Like, you are what you are. And so it made me start thinking, like, well, American Athletic Conference is really sitting pretty here waiting for the Big 12 to kind of fold into it.
Yeah, it's another crazy angle that is not all that surprising because, you should just not be surprised by much at this point. I mean, you should just be kind of like all ears and, yep, sure, that makes sense. And so, yeah, initially you're kind of jarred by that report, but ultimately in dipping into it, it's something that makes sense for those schools that are involved. It's bad news for the Big 12, obviously. So the Big 12 seems to have, somewhat of an alliance going on, at least with the Texas schools. I know that was mentioned in the article, and they're going to need all the numbers they can get because right now they're on a very weird island to where you felt like, okay, at least if we band together, then we have option A, B, and C at our disposal, but it might just be option A and B now, and they're searching for a C. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to make of it all in terms of how it affects the Big 12 because we need to see how it plays out a little bit, but it's disconcerting for sure if you're Kirby Hocutt or Mack Rhodes or TCU or not Texas Tech, but if you're TCU or perhaps even some of the other Big 12 remnants, but for sure the Texas schools, it's a big concern.
Yeah, it has to be because it's just kind of like, oh yeah, and oh by the way, there's this other Power 5 or Autonomy 5, whatever it might be. We'll hear from Don Williams again, Lubbock Avalanche Journal here momentarily. Mack Rhodes joins us on Tuesday. That's tomorrow, so not sure what we'll be able to do. We'll get to that one at some particular time as well. And then also the newest top 25 came out. Alabama, now this is much more in line with what I said when the coaches poll came out. Alabama won's not a surprise, 47 of the 63 first place votes, but Oklahoma got 6 votes, first place votes. Clemson got 6. Ohio State got 1. Georgia got 3. See, this is what I don't think is the question's not who's number 1. The question is why was Alabama near unanimous in the coaches poll? And this one seems to be much more in line based on kind of a scatter of a lot of other first place votes, but still Alabama got 47 of 63.
Yeah, I thought it was weird that no one voted for Clemson in the coaches poll. I mean, no one?
Or Ohio State or Georgia.
Yeah, Well, I mean, I get Alabama's number 1 until somebody proves that they're not. They're number 1, but no one voted for them. Like, there's not one person who's so inside and knows that they're like, you know what? No, I think Alabama's headed for, maybe a couple losses because of something I know. I don't know, but that didn't happen. So, in Oklahoma only getting 2, Oklahoma getting 6 votes makes the most sense to me because of all these teams in the top 5. The only one where they're turning quarterback is Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think you guys are giving the coaches way too much credit for their poll because the media actually looked into it. That's what happened. The media actually looks at the offseason and they look at who took who and they look at who went where and they look at all the scenarios. The coaches basically give it to a TA half the time and let them fill it out. So, I mean, that's the difference. That's the difference is the fact that the media actually takes it somewhat seriously and does their research and has a better grasp of more programs than a regular college football head coach does. I would trust somebody to vote on their conference, but outside of that, I don't know how much they're even watching or how much they're even paying attention. So, yeah, I mean, it's simply that. But I'm glad to see the media spread the love because I do think there are more teams than just Alabama who have a pretty good resume leading into this season in terms of maybe what they did last year, but ultimately what they did during the offseason and why they're excited about this season. So yeah, Georgia and Oklahoma and Ohio State and on and on and on. There's 5 or 6 teams that you could throw in that mix, but yeah, Alabama at number 1. I mean that's a no-brainer, but there should be some love spread.
Yeah, Alabama, Oklahoma, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia. A&M is 6th. Iowa State at 7, they are in both the top 10s in both the polls. Cincinnati, one of those teams that's kind of on the outside looking in, not in the Power 5, that's been discussed a little bit as a possible, maybe at some point, realignment at addition. I don't know. At 8, Notre Dame and North Carolina. Mac Brown has the Tar Heels at number 10. Texas, 21. And these 2 teams getting both top 25 loves, Coastal Carolina and Louisiana, University of Louisiana. And they, of course, play Texas early on. Just outside was Oklahoma State, TCU, West Virginia also receiving votes as well. A lot of you on the YouTube channel from right off the top, from the beginning, from Jeff and Scotty, Todd and Dan, Cad, Modest Cowboy, Todd Lee, Dodge 5 Family, Paula, and, Scotty, our good friend Scotty B. I got the keys, Keith Moore. What about the Super Alliance? How tight is it really? These are reports. We don't know. We really don't know. We may never know. Well, we will know at some point if it just kind of dissolves and moves on.
And what's the end game to it? I mean, the part about it that was understandable was, the voting aspect of this. They aren't going to get bullied by the SEC because they're going to have more votes by far than the SEC is going to have. So, it's actually kind of brilliant because there's only really 4 Power 5 conferences remaining. The only thing the SEC could do now is do an alliance with the remaining 8 Big 12 schools that they just stole from and basically caused the ruin of. So that does nothing for them. And even if they did that, which I'm sure the Big 12 schools would be somewhat hesitant to do, but even if they did, they're still outnumbered by a large margin. So this is a brilliant political move. It sucks for the Big 12 because they're just like the kid that nobody talks to, basically. And the SEC, I mean, they had to expect a counterpunch coming at some point from these other schools that they're not talking with. And so there was the counterpunch, and now it'll be interesting to see what they do. But outside of this, hey, we're going to have more votes, what does it really mean? Like, are we going to see a scheduling alliance truly? Are we going to see, like, crossover games where, like, every year somebody in the Big Ten plays a Pac-12 school and an ACC school, or 2 of them? Or, like, how is that going to work? Because, it's one thing to say you're going to work in conjunction with each other, but we as fans get ideas in our heads, and we're thinking, like, super alliance, and really what it could just be is just, like, voting power. You know what I mean? So is it voting power, which is a big deal, or is it actually something that outside of like the political side of things, actually has an effect on college football.
You're just going to throw us a couple bones every now and again,
Right.
where Ohio State might play Clemson, like
on occasion.
Yeah,
but they're not going to play. You won't see like Oregon, Ohio State,
right,
like every year, or Michigan against USC every year, or just name a team, or like you said, Clemson. And perhaps, I don't know if it's Penn State or Wisconsin. There will be some of those matchups. But the voting thing is interesting because of the college football expansion as far as the playoff. And really what the SEC is after is to get as many of those teams they can get, slam them inside 8, 10, or 12, whatever they expand to. It's almost, Paul, you're more of a political guy, and Craig, you are. I just kind of...
I hate politics.
But I know, but you have a bill, and you have your blue states and your red states, your Republicans and your Democrats or whatever, and there's always like a little small group that you try to sway, right?
Yeah, they call it whipping votes. So
isn't that really what at least some of what Max is reporting is that they're trying to whip some votes so they can control this expansion thing a little bit more with their own best interest rather than just wham. There's 12 teams in the SEC's got the massive conference.
Yeah, but I thought, and I don't ever listen to really any other shows, but I did notice some comments that Paul Feinbaum had about this, and he said, basically this doesn't mean anything because you're still getting, who is it here soon? Ohio State and somebody's playing, and then you got Clemson and whatever playing, and Clemson and Georgia, or like all these games are happening anyways in the non-conference. So like, what does this do? It's already happening. Like okay, so we're gonna get Ohio State and Clemson. Okay, we kind of already get that. So like, his point was, that doesn't mean that we're gonna get better games because we're already getting really good games. It's just kind of a show, if anything else, of like, hey, we're going to have power too, but ultimately there's not a move these schools can make or these conferences can make that's equal to adding Oklahoma and Texas as personal brands. So I don't know what it really does.
Well, and look, if Georgia calls Washington and says we'd like to do a home and home in 5 years, are they going to say no necessarily? No. I mean, they know it's good for all of them. So it's not like they're not going to schedule the SEC teams and they all want to draft off of that. So, yeah, I mean, he's probably kind of right there in that this is – let's not do something. I agree. Let's not do something that's just for show. Let's do something that's going to be, substantial for the future of college football.
All right. Here are some of the questions and opinions from. There's a lot of everyone watches the SEC from Bob Williams. Don Williams is going to join us, Lubbock Avalanche Journal. Dante Allen, besides Clemson, what other team does Georgia have to worry about? That we've discussed that with a writer from Clemson. I heard that from you guys on Friday. You have something else to add? Also, from Connor, more people watch the SEC than the other three combined. From Cat Bain, the Super Alliance is for TV rights to have all of the Power 5 schedule. From Todd Lee, someone asked about, I think it was Dante asked about Auburn. Can they beat Alabama? It's so early right now. They're not favored to do so, but if anyone ever can rise up and get them on occasion, it is Auburn, some of the great classic games. We'll get back to some of your YouTube and the text line at 254-339-1122. Don Williams, great writer for the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, has been covering Texas Tech in the days of the Big 12, or heck, everything, whatever it's called these days, joins us. So, Don, you had a chance to get some comments from Kirby Hocutt, the Texas Tech AD, about Max Olson and the report over the weekend about the alliance of three other Power 5 conferences. Can you kind of summarize, as you're on your way to practice, really what Kirby may have said?
Well, I asked him, was it disconcerting to read that report that the Big 12 being excluded from a conversation from conversations involving the Pac-12, Big 10, ACC? Said, is it disconcerting to read that? And he said, of course it is. Of course it is. And then one of his other comments was, something that he's not pleased about, something that you're not happy about. And so I think it's just, the other 8 schools in the Big 12, other than Texas and Oklahoma, are, it's been a nervous time this last month, and I think that story coming out on Friday night just made it more nervous and reinforced kind of the precarious position that the other 8 schools are in right now, and the uncertainty that they're facing. And I think the reality is this is not something that's going to come to a resolution soon. And I asked Kirby that what do you think the most realistic timeline is for when Texas Tech knows something clearly and definitively about its future? And he said, that's a question I can't answer. And he said, it does think it's going to take some time to work through.
So what does he say going forward? How do you deal with an uncertain timeline and total uncertainty, especially when stuff's happening kind of behind your back constantly?
I think he does what we're doing right now, and that's that he's on the phone. That was one of the other things that he said. I asked him what the last 3.5 weeks have been like, and he said, I feel like I've been on the phone 16 hours a day. So this is the time when you exhaust all resources and you touch base, he said, with every contact that you've made throughout your career. He said that he's talked to the commissioners of 4 of the 5 power conferences, ADs in all of the Power 5 conferences, and they're pretty much pulling out all the stops.
Don, how much stock do you put into the strength of this alliance between the Big 12 schools in Texas? So we heard about that last week as well. I mean, on the one hand, it seems smart to stick together. On the other hand, they've all got to be kind of looking at each other side-eyed, right, because of just everything that's been going on. So how much stock do you put in these Texas schools actually being able to kind of, use strength in numbers?
Well, I think it benefits them until it doesn't benefit them. I mean, I don't think it hurts them to be united and to be publicly united and to be united behind the scenes at this point. Until now, of course, that would change if one of them were to receive an invitation from one of the other power conferences. But the reality is, none of them have received an invitation from one of the other power conferences at this point. And I think they all know the score. They all know that, yes, we're in the same boat here. None of us has a real secure future. It's a scary time. We have to be looking out for ourselves individually. They know that. They understand that. And they know that each of them is talking to all over the country, just like Kirby Hocutt said he's talked to ADs all over the country. And he said, for the Power 5 conference commissioners. But again, and it's been well documented, if there's a financial incentive to them sticking together longer than Texas and Oklahoma stay in the conference, because they do that, then they get split up, 150, 160 million. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, the Big 12 still owns the revenue. It still owns the TV rights to Texas and Oklahoma games through 2025, regardless if they go to the SEC. If Texas plays Georgia in 2024, that is a Big 12 property. If Oklahoma plays LSU in 2023, that's Big 12 property. So that's more money coming to these schools. So again, I think it doesn't hurt them to be united and to say we're working together. Because ultimately their best option may be that they may wind up still together after 2025, and they may have to take the least attractive option, which is simply to add schools from the AAC.
Don, I know you're on your way to practice. Thanks for your time. Appreciate the update, your conversation with Kirby Hocutt at Tech, and also the possibility of an alliance with 3 other Power 5s that does not include the Big 12. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
You bet. Take care, David.
Don Williams jumped on us. He was on his way to practice, driving to the football stadium as Texas Tech goes through their fall workout.
I mean, I know it's a dumb question, but I have to ask, and that whole, that alliance thing is, they're tight until somebody else gets a call. So it's so flimsy. Like, that whole thing is just waiting on a gust of wind to blow it away, because it's true. Like, you can all say the right things right now. Texas and Oklahoma were actually in meetings while planning their SEC exit, saying all the right things to the Big 12 too. Mm-hmm. And look where that got everybody. So, man, it's got to be a weird deal if you're, on the one hand, like, let's say you're Mac Rhodes and you're talking to Kirby Hocutt, and you have to trust him, right? And you got to think that he's trusting you. But at the same time, there has to be, like, as much as you trust the guy, there has to be like that 1% of like, okay, once he got off the phone with me, did he go call someone? You know what I mean? Like, there's just the paranoia is
Well,
everywhere.
And because of that paranoia, when does somebody get desperate?
But the best thing to do is be patient.
No, it is.
No, and everyone's saying they got to do something, but really, if they go and just do something haphazard, they end up losing so much out of this deal. The best thing to do is be patient. Don mentioned that. We've all mentioned that, and yet you have to be paranoid every day.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying since the very first week this broke that the only real option for the remaining Big 12 schools is to stick together. I mean, that's the only option they have. And, it might not be the greatest option, but it sure beats the one where you all just fall apart. And next thing you know, you're scheduling Sam Houston for homecoming every year as a conference game. I mean, because that's what you could fall down into. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of paranoia running wild. But, Don mentioned it there. That money is not a joke. And, people who say, well, you got to do something. Well, I'm not just tossing aside $50 million just
not with these 8 teams.
To appease social media.
No.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to throw away $50 million when I'm about to make far less than I've made in the last 25 years. That money's going to matter a great deal. So, yeah, I mean, they have no choice but to stick it out together. And I don't know what the whole ploy is by these other conferences of just not having any interest in these remaining 8 schools, because I think, there's no school in the remaining 8 that is a Clemson or a Georgia or a OU or whatever, but they're still big parts of college football. And if you look at some of the biggest moments of the last 5, 10, 15 years, a lot of those schools are involved in a lot of those big moments. They might not bring in the money, and that's what this all boils down to again, is money, but the fact that they're just kind of being overlooked entirely is a little strange to me.
Well, the other thing I was kind of surprised about is, you shouldn't. I would, if all the Big 12 schools, in Texas are involved in this, or if you get involved in the Big 12, you would at least want the Texas market or the voting block from Texas, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
To maybe counteract Texas and Texas A&M. So, it's not going to – those 2 schools are huge, but, you've got 4 schools in Texas that can maybe, pull some weight there. So that's why I was surprised you wouldn't just have all the other 4 meet together and do it. I get that, maybe Kansas State, TCU, Baylor, whoever, they're not blowing your skirt up or anything, but, there's still some value there.
Yeah, no, there's value there, and I don't know why, just from my standpoint, again, I know it's about the money, and so, it's the same answer really as for West Virginia fans of, why not the ACC? Well, again, do they bring down the value? And I understand that maybe where the hesitation is, okay, if you add TCU and you add Baylor and you add Texas Tech, then, maybe each school is now making $15 million versus making $20, and that would be problematic. I understand that. But I would have to also think that it sure beats the option of just basically handing over the entire state of Texas to one conference. Because if Texas goes to the SEC and no one goes and plucks these other schools, the Power 5 Texas representation would be 2 schools in the SEC, and that's it. And that's it. And so I don't know why, if you were the ACC or the Pac-12, and if it's because of, well, Baylor's Baptist, okay, well, then screw you, snob. Forget it then. But as far as having a footprint, you're just going to let them have it? Let the SEC just have the state of Texas? And they have a large chunk anyways with College Station and Austin, but if these other schools just go down a level, then that's all there is.
You know what? There was a time, sometimes we forget this. I know that the SEC's won 11 of the last 16 national titles. Okay, I get it. They are the most powerful conference, no question about it. But a lot of these things can be cyclical. Now, the SEC's trying to set it up where it won't be. They're just going to have everybody, right? They're going to have all top 16 teams in the world, and that's fine. But there was a time when the SEC was not elite, and what they did is they went out and got better, and they got more committed, not to playing football. The South has always been worried about playing football, but they've actually and methodically added Missouri and Texas A&M, now Oklahoma and Texas. And what they've done, they look like the big bad wolf or the big 800-pound gorilla. Yeah, because they've thought this through. They've been smart. How hard is it in this day and age to be able to get Texas and Oklahoma on board and nobody knows about it except Texas and Oklahoma and maybe a handful of people? They have done what other programs, and I think the Big Ten, as good as it can be at times, has kind of just sat back in their big fat couch with Ohio State, Michigan, maybe Penn State, Wisconsin, and said, we're fine. The Pac-12 and the Big 12, always like everyone else around them, was getting better, bigger, better, faster, stronger, right? And they became irrelevant. The ACC's got some dudes, but they've become kind of only a couple of teams at the top as well. It's not as if other conferences can't beat the SEC, but you're starting to get into a turf war for wins and losses when 75% of the turf war is owned by the SEC. And
they've got a machine behind them that's been helping create that perception for the last 20 years. And this is not a knock on the SEC. This is just factual. They've had the ESPN machine pumping them up since basically the year 2000 in every way, shape, or form, to where now, if you're a kid who grew up watching college football, and I'm thankful that I didn't, because I'd be full-on indoctrinated. I'd be full-on just like, the SEC is all that matters, because that's basically what you've been fed for like 20 years now. And it's, when they're winning the national title basically every single year, except for the rare occasion where like Ohio State or Clemson jumps up, it's hard to disprove that. But yeah, ESPN's been pumping that machine for a couple decades now, and I don't know how it's ever going to slow down from what it is now. I mean, it's been so well executed and so incredibly well thought out, like you're saying, in terms of just going and plucking the right teams that are big brands and doing it very calculated. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how the momentum ever slows down for them, but there is life outside of it as well. So, we'll see. It sure seems like the world's getting smaller, not bigger, at least when it comes to college football, which is kind of the opposite of the real world in some ways. But, these remaining Texas teams, they've got some questions to answer, that's for sure.
And as does Kansas State, Iowa State, among some others. From Kalani, what are your thoughts about the Rose Bowl memo dictating its demands with a future playoff expansion? One, not a surprise, the Rose Bowl has always thought that their stuff doesn't stink.
Yeah.
They have always thought that no matter the growth, the millions and millions of dollars, the Rose Bowl can only be played at one time, at one moment, because their bowl's more important than everybody else, because they're living back before I was born. Now, that doesn't mean it's not powerful, and they got the parade, but they have fought this. Listen, things are changing. It's been hard even for a guy my age at times to see some of the changes. Not so much in technology from what used to be a typewriter to a laptop, but the Rose Bowl is going to lose this fight. They're going to lose this fight. They've already started to slip a little bit. That doesn't mean they're not a power football game, play for the national title there, et cetera. But the days of it being who they thought they were, those days are very much gone.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you this. If you wanted to play a national championship game in Southern California, would you rather play in the brand new shiny stadium, or would you rather play in Grandpa Stadium? That's the other problem the Rose Bowl has, is that SoFi Stadium exists. And I get the tradition and all that of the Rose Bowl
Saturday night, and it is so beautiful.
I mean, it's beautiful. God. So, again, you can sit that they're doing all this stuff. It's also, I'm going to throw a little side note in it. It's another reason why parades are stupid, is that they give people false sense of bravado. Like, we have a parade.
Where's the Cotton Bowl played?
In Dallas.
Where?
Oh, that's at AT&T, yeah.
At AT&T Stadium.
Where was the last Rose Bowl played?
Yeah. So, the last Rose Bowl was played there because they didn't want to play. So,
I think it's a total pompous reaction of of what's to be expected for the Rose Bowl, and the whole sense of tradition and history and all that. I respect the Rose Bowl and everything, but yeah, just shut up. I mean, that was you have no say in this. You have no sway. You have no power. You're gonna do whatever is decided. But yeah, I just found that kind of funny more than anything else. And no, it's irrelevant as far as I'm concerned.
All right, when we come back, your calls at 254-339-1122. If you're on hold, bear with us. We were able to get you through this first, almost 30 minutes of the show. Don Williams, thanks for his time on his way to watch Texas Tech practice and the post-practice audio. We have post-practice today later on after our show with Baylor. They had a scrimmage on Saturday. There's one name that I heard in a different light than his entire time he's been at Baylor. His name's Xavier Newman, offensive lineman. Whether or not he is going to meet some of what we hear about him remains to be seen, but I thought there was some interesting notes about him. We'll get into that. He's been around for what seemed like a decade at Baylor. Also, 254-339-1122. The text line is open. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, David Smoak in the background. Hayden, A-Rob is here, and Armstrong Sims, Sikkim, 365 Radio.
Responsive power, advanced technology, and exceptional agility all combine on a new Cadillac to bring a smile to your face on every drive. At Richard Carr Cadillac, they will find the right Cadillac for you, whether it's a smooth and powerful CT4 sedan started at only $33,395, or the XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs in the style and size that fits your lifestyle. You can also get back on the road with the space, safety, and luxury of a Buick. Right now, well-qualified buyers get 0% financing for 72 months on most 2021 Buick SUVs. And Richard Carr is also loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks, all of them priced to move during the summer savings event with multiple cars and trucks priced to get you back on the road this summer. And all pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot. With dozens of lenders, Richard Carr says yes when others say no. 100% credit approval is always the goal. And they're also your local hometown dealership. Give Richard Carr a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes, and superior service after the sale. So come by and take a test drive or let them bring the test drive to you. It's a summer savings event going on all month at Richard Carr. They are owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
Since its inception, Pickup Outfitters has remained politically neutral. We love trucks of every persuasion, not just red and blue ones. But people keep asking us where we stand, and for this one time, we're going to break our neutrality. We oppose any government intervention or legislation to end truck nudity. We believe in the American right to drive nude vehicles. We think it's disgusting. We fight it every place we can, and we want to end it, but we want to end it the right way, peaceably. Therefore, we call on Congress and President Biden to respect the rights of truck owners. Our founding fathers didn't own a truck, but if they did, I bet they would have put a bed cover and running boards on their truck. The right to keep and bear your truck the way you want is fundamental to the fabric of this nation, and we believe in that right. So we urge you to come and take it at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco. On the web at createacommotion.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BETUS. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SICK'EM125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasoning, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
All right, here we go. This 3 o'clock hour, halfway through, 4:10 today. We will check in on Oklahoma State, and then at 4:30, Max Olson, who is the one who had the story about the Big Ten, Pac-12, ACC discussions about forming the alliance, which we discussed, or an alliance, which we discussed, of course, in the first few minutes of this show. 254-339-1122. A lot of you on the text message at that number. We have calls getting ready to go to you, and also the YouTube chat room, which is always interesting.
All right, let's go to the BetUS caller line. Use promo code SICK'EM125 for BetUS.com for 125% bonus. Dan in Iowa, thanks for your call. Hello, Dan. Dan, you there?
Hello?
There you go.
Yeah. Am I on?
Yeah,
Yes.
Go ahead, Dan, please.
I just started following you guys here about a week ago after this on YouTube, and I really enjoy the conversations. I think it's very, I don't know, I just want to say that I think they took all the purity out of the football game, these rivalries, and it's just game. And I realize that money is very important to this deal, but you know, some of these teams just don't. I mean, Iowa State, I'm an Iowa State alumni, and they have fantastic facilities down there. And we're starting to just compete with our coach now and some of the recruits. We've had good basketball teams in the past, but the future is, you know, very unknown. It's very, I don't know, I'm going to say. And I look at like college basketball, and it's always the big heavyweights until Butler got in there a few years ago. They gave Duke everything they had and were 40 feet away from being a national champion. And I don't want to see that kind of stuff end. And I just want to see what you guys think.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate your time. And we understand your passion. Iowa State's right on the cusp of maybe something special. And then all of a sudden they're having to see all this around and the furniture move around them. But appreciate the call.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the purity of college football, I mean, I think for a long time, and this, you know, probably is hard for a lot of college football fans to admit, but we were enjoying a game for its purity that really wasn't all that pure. I mean, when you look at the name, image, likeness, and things like that were going on, so I think they actually purified the game in some ways by taking away some of the draconian rules that were in place. Now, however, that then immediately led to the money-hungry, power-hungry folks that control everything and that always remain in control to see an opportunity like people in those positions normally do. And instead of just, you know, saying, hey, this is a banner thing for college sports and that's good enough as far as change goes, they just had to say, all right, let's take it to a completely different level, and that's now where we are. So, yeah, I mean, I think some of the purity actually got brought into the game because of some of the rules, but as a result, the greedy folks wanted to get more greedy. And so now the money factor is more upfront in our face than ever before, and there's not a lot of purity about money in general. So, yeah, it's kind of a catch-22. On the one hand, I think they did a good thing. On the other hand, I think it led to just more of the worst part of the sport.
Here's the text that we got from John in Utah on something similar. Started watching you folks when the Big 12 headaches came to life. What year? Thank you for being online. Here is something I want you guys to throw around. Is there an answer in the courts? Disney, i.e. ABC, are using their money to overly influence college sports. RICO laws go after organized crime. Monopolies have been busted up in the courts. Could the courts rein in the broadcasters, the NCAA and or the SEC? Just thinking out loud, I might be full of it.
Now, look, I'll tell you this. As a full-on Teddy Roosevelt super fan, I'm all about busting trusts, okay? I am. Like, it was one of the greatest things that ever happened in the early part of the 20th century that Teddy Roosevelt said, look, this is not real capitalism. This is cronyism, and it's going to be bad. What's happened in the 100-plus years since then is that we have slowly drifted back to the way that we were and justified it through various other means when a gigantic corporation, a trust, whatever you want to call it, is the same whether it's 1910 or 2010 or 1920 or 2020. It doesn't matter. It's giant. It has the same effect. It has the same reach. And just because there might be different window dressing on it, it's the same. So yes, I would be totally for the government getting involved and busting up some of these large companies. Now, they did that on a smaller scale with ESPN last year when they forced them to sell off the regional sports networks that they got from Fox in that purchase, but they just made them sell them to another gigantic corporation that is too big and probably needs to be busted up. Yep. It's, AT&T is gigantic. ESPN, ABC, Disney, gigantic. These corporations need to be busted up because it's not good for us in the long run. So yeah, I totally agree with that. The problem is that the political weight is all on their side. They pay lobbyists millions and millions and probably billions on lobbies a year to keep this stuff out of the courts.
Yeah, and I don't know what really case I'm not smart enough to pretend to know what they could even present as a case. I think the closest to actual interesting legal happenings that we could see would be what does Bob Bowlesby actually happen to have? And I'll tell you what, I don't think that ESPN wants to go to court. I think, sure, they feel like they could probably spend more money than the Big 12 could ever spend, and they'll do what big corporations do. They'll spend on lawyers and spend on lawyers until you basically bankrupt the other side. It's not that you won, you just bankrupted the other side, because I don't think that they want anything out in the courts that they would actually have to be under oath for. Now, that's where I could see it getting broken up somewhat, but I don't think ESPN's going to let it get to that point, and they're just going to hope that the Big 12 fails before then. But yeah, it would be interesting to see if there were some legal ramifications. I'm just not smart enough to know what they could even approach in doing, but it is kind of frightening, just not even in just college football, but just countrywide, how much, 3 or 4 companies really run everything, quite frankly.
And I hate when it goes to the courts. I understand there's a reason it exists, but to me, my God, whatever happened to just playing the games, and of course, I know that's long gone as well.
Yeah, but going back to that first call too, I think college sports is going to be okay for at least the foreseeable future. None of this change is happening like this season. So I think we all definitely need to sit back and really appreciate this season for what it's going to be, because it might not be like this ever again. It might be, the Oklahoma-Texas SEC starting in 2 years, or the 3 super conference alliance or whatever versus the SEC in a couple years. So this is the last year that we can say for sure it's going to be 5 Power 5 conferences, all at, full capacity and whatnot, and a P5 and a G5. And then after this year, who the heck knows? We might have A5, B5, C5. We might have everything, but enjoy college football for what it is. I don't think the spirit of the game is going to go away, but there is a whole lot of money that was just always there. It was just kind of hidden behind a curtain. And now what's happened with NIL and with, the alliances and all that is just that the curtain fell. And now we can see all the stuff that's actually been happening all along. And it's kind of gross, but it's reality, and that's the way college sports have always been.
All right, 254-339-1122. We're on till 6. We'll have Max Olson, theathletic.com, at 4:30. We'll check in on Oklahoma State at 4:10 today.
All right, let's go to Graham in what I believe is Brazil. Thanks for your call.
My Lord, Germany, Mexico City, and Brazil. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Hey, this is Mexico City again.
Okay. All right. Great to have you on again. Thank you.
Hey, I first want to start by saying Roll Tide. I'm a huge Bama fan, but I do believe that the 3 conferences trying to get together for a vote does make a lot of sense, but I do worry about all the egos in the room, kind of like you had with Texas in the Big 12. You're going to have Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Miami, USC. That's a lot of egos to try to all work together.
No question. Yeah. That's kind of how a lot of this may have started. And you're always going to have egos. You're going to have egos when it comes to business world or politics, or in this case, college football and conferences as well.
Well, for one, Roll Tide, and number 2,
Wait a minute, you said that perfectly.
Well, it goes is a bit I did way back on like 3 stations ago. But as far as the egos in the room. It's easy for all the egos to get together when they're battling another ego that maybe is big or bigger. It's obviously a bigger threat is the SEC. And so, those egos came together to battle, the the big scary monster that is the SEC. But I'm with you. I think that's why I'm interested to know like more of what they're looking to accomplish outside of the voting. We know that, and we know the power that holds, so that makes a lot of sense. But where does it go from there? Because as we pointed out earlier, like USC is already playing big non-conference games. So is this just okay? We're going to keep playing big non-conference games. I don't know. I don't really know what it does outside of the voting aspect, and maybe that's all it needs to be. Is just for the voting aspect of just to keep the SEC in check. But I definitely think the longer they work together, and depending on what issues arise, that you're definitely going to have some conflicts that arise as well. I mean, that's just going to be natural, and how they settle that, because there's not like a czar over these three, right? I mean, it's in the SEC, if you have issues, Greg Sankey sorts it out, or whatever. But if you've got Kevin Warren, and then you've got Kleofkoff, and then you've got who's the ACC commissioner?
Jim Phillips.
Jim Phillips. I mean, they're all on the same level. So, is it a 2-to-1 thing? Like, how is that all going to work? That will be interesting to see.
How long has Phillips been there?
Not long.
All three of those are brand new, like pups.
I think Jim Phillips might like outdate Kevin Warren by like 3 weeks.
Okay. So you got three of the Power 5 conference commissioners who are all almost like just babies and pups to the business, in a way, in different ways.
If they have a similar mindset on most issues, then, it makes sense. They can just vote through what they want, and that'll be no big deal. But what is their grander plan? What is their more master plan? And that's where I could see there maybe being some issues arise where your own self-interest suddenly has to take over, because at the end of the day, you can alliance all you want to, but Kevin Warren still has to worry about the Big Ten schools first and foremost.
Oh, yeah, he does, because Ohio State and Michigan will let him know.
So, there's going to be something there, depending on, what this actually is. All
right, so one question was asked, and we throw it to the break with this question. Why and what has the SEC done for so many people to start hating it? I don't know if that's the word. There might be some people who say some things. Let's come back and discuss that as well, because I don't see that. I see an incredible amount of respect for the 800-pound gorilla. We'll get to that. More calls. Here we go. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. IdealMRI.com. They're one of the title sponsors of this show. Back when we launched this show in April of 2020, Dr. Rob Maxey contacted me and said, we want to be involved. And they have been since day one. IdealMRI.com can save you hundreds and the possibility of thousands of dollars by what they do. They take MRI. They take images of your shoulder or your leg or something that hurts, that is a torn muscle or a ligament or something that's so painful it really keeps you from functioning in some way. So if you have been seeing an orthopedic surgeon and they have said, hey, we need to get an MRI of this, well, tell them IdealMRI.com. $497 every single time or less. The average MRI is $1,100. You do the math. That is saving you hundreds of dollars if it's $497, maybe thousands of dollars if, in fact, it's over $1,100, if that is the average. Ideal MRI is in Waco in the Central Texas marketplace. They have a state-of-the-art technology MRI machine, a great staff, Al LeBlanc, along with Dr. Rob Maxey and the staff of what are professionals. IdealMRI.com.
Make this a summer event is going on now at Allen Samuels with the all-new 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L, now arriving and in stock. This beautiful, rugged third-row seat carries the prestigious Jeep heritage. The 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo, with values of $3,500 or 0% for 48 months, plus $2,000 in bonus cash. Allen Samuels.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com.
U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, we'll have a rider on Oklahoma State and where they are. In fact, of course, college football just around the corner. There's a handful of games the last weekend in August. And then, of course, the NFL yet another week into the preseason. We'll have Eli Letterman will join us at 4:10 on Oklahoma State. Max Olson, 4:30. Paul?
All right, let's go to Chris in Missouri on the BetUS caller line. Chris, thanks for your call.
Hi, guys. Great to talk to you again. Hey, I agree with a lot of things you said. I hate that it's become all about money. I hate seeing the rivalries disappear. I think it was Craig that was asking about master plans. 2 weeks ago, I said that ESPN was trying to ice out Fox Sports. I honestly believe, and I'm almost positive now with this merger talk, that the ACC has no interest whatsoever in being on the side of Fox or Big 12 or Pac-12. It's just about pressuring ESPN to give them a new TV deal, because everything benefits them to stay on the side of ESPN. You know, by staying with SEC and ESPN, that gives them 30 schools to the 24 on the other side, and it weakens the position of the Big Ten enough that maybe they could pry Penn State and Notre Dame, because as things go towards the SEC and ESPN, nobody wants to be left out in the cold. And if the ACC joins up with the SEC, there's just not enough on the other side to, you know, the Pac-12 and the Big Ten aren't what they used to be. Their name brand is good, but it isn't enough to carry it versus the SEC, the ACC, and with the AAC in ESPN's pocket, that'll be the conference that SEC and ACC beat up on for out-of-conference wins. I think that they're just going to dominate on the ESPN side for playoff positions, and I wonder what your thought is on that.
Hey, good stuff, Chris. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, I think that the ESPN is definitely being deliberate in trying to get control of the playoff and total control of the playoff. They're going to get control of the playoff. They'll have control of the SEC, which is the strongest conference. They'll have control of the Big Ten, have control of the ACC. Well, at least a part of the Big Ten, not the entire Big Ten, but part of the Big Ten. So, yeah, I mean, basically unstoppable. The Big 12 is going to be irrelevant. So what you're left with is what, the Pac-12? And Pac-12 can tie its boats to Fox or whatever. But, I mean, basically, yeah, ESPN is moving full force into basically owning college football for the most part. They're going to have, so long as they don't get the full rights to the college football playoff, which is what they're trying to do, obviously, and why they don't want to see the college football playoff rights actually enter the open and free market, which was talked about a week or two ago. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is to your point, just a long game and a calculated plan on the part of the networks to basically wrangle up all of the content agreements, partnerships that they can to create the most power that they can. And ESPN's in a very powerful spot right now. It'll be interesting to see what ends up happening if some of these grant of rights actually do come up. But yeah, I don't know. It's very clear what's going on. I mean, in terms of what ESPN's doing, it's just like, is there any way to stop it, or where does it ultimately lead? But it is very clear. I mean, especially if the playoff doesn't go and get openly bidded on, they're going to have that. They're going to have the Big Ten for the most part, ACC and SEC, and yeah, it's a pretty big package right there.
Here's a text from the 440. The final alignment will be this. I don't think this is going to happen, but I'll read it. SEC has their 16 teams already. ACC will grab West Virginia and Penn State. That will give them 16, right, Paul? Kansas, Iowa State, Kansas State to the Big Ten for 16. Not sure if that, because Penn State.
I don't think it's all got to be 16 teams, though.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Texas Tech, Baylor, and TCU to the Pac-12, along with Oklahoma State for 16 Super Conference. That's what ESPN wants, and they get whatever they want. And that may be true. There's a lot of things. A lot of conferences are going to have to let down their arrogance and their pompous to allow some of these teams to be a part of it. Just an opinion. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, and it probably won't.
But it's not what ESPN wants, because if they wanted that, then they wouldn't be completely shunning the 8 remaining Big 12 schools. Like, you would grab them, you go and you'd place them around, and maybe that's ultimately what happens. But I don't think the end goal is 4 16-team conferences. I think we all just like that idea because it's like, oh, well, that's like the NCAA tournament, and it's all even and rounded. But, I mean, I wouldn't be – I mean, right now we got a conference of – 10 that's about to become 8. We've got a conference that goes by the name 10 that has 14. We've got, I don't think it's going to be, 4 16 teams. I think it's going to be like 3 20-something team. Like, that's, to me, where it's headed more so than like 4 16 team leagues. And I don't know where the remaining Big 12 schools fall into that. Yeah, I mean, what you said makes sense, but it just almost seems too simple, because it seems like that's something they could have already ironed out in the last 2 weeks and been like, okay, cool, here it is. And I know there's contracts and stuff, but I don't know. It doesn't seem to me to be going that simplistic of a way. It seems to be going a much more. I don't know.
ESPN's got metrics that they're looking at that we're not privy to. You know, so they're trying to determine. They're also trying to. And all the networks are trying to look into the future as to what streaming really is and how much you make money and what that really means and how you make money on, think about the way that like movies have like dual releases now, where they have, you can go see it in the theater or you can, watch it on Disney Plus if you pay $30. And so how do you do that for college football? Can you do that same thing?
Let's get one more call in and we go to the top of the hour.
I like the idea, though, because it would be simple and clean and everybody would find a spot. I love the idea, but it's
just not going to be simple and clean.
Exactly, yeah.
Howard in Oregon, thanks for your call. You're on the BetUS caller line.
Hey, good talking to you guys again, and welcome to the European Union of College Sports. Instead of Germany, we got 3 conferences trying to do it. I agree with Craig 100%. This is what I'd like to see. I'd like to see the Pac-12 just take all of those Big 12 schools and do the pod thing. Some guy talked about it the other week on your channel with the Big 10, but I think it would be more applicable to the Pac-12, and this is what I'd like to see. I'd like to see a pod with Arizona State, Texas Tech, Baylor, and TCU. Now, Arizona and Arizona State everybody in the Pac-12, California is the recruiting place. You got to recruit in California, and if you're an Arizona school, you got to recruit in Arizona. But the next state is Texas. In Tucson, you're only 350 miles from El Paso. It's a 6-hour drive. So that's one pod. Then I take the California schools and shove Utah in there. That would give you another pod. Then I take the rest of the Big 12 and make it its own pod, which would cut out a lot of the traveling with West Virginia and all that stuff. And then I take the Northwest schools and I shove Colorado in there. And then you'd play in your pod, and then you'd have a couple schools, so you wouldn't have this massive traveling all over the place. That's what I would do. And that would take care of the Big 12. And then instead of 41 votes, you would have 49 votes. And the SEC would have 16. But there's another thing that's really interesting to me is the playoffs. The football playoff. You'd have a great basketball conference, by the way, and baseball conference if you did that. It would be tremendous, and men and women's sports. And the conference and the national championships, all these bowls have these contracts with these existing conferences. Now, let's say they do this alliance thing, right? So you get, they start talking about maybe even scheduling. I'm just hypothesizing. So you get the Huskies playing Wisconsin, right? Big Ten, Pac-12, okay? So they play during the regular season. What if, the Huskies end up second and Wisconsin ends up second, in their conference? And they've already played, and Oregon, who ends up first in the Pac-12, and Ohio State, who ends up first in the Big Ten, they go into the playoffs, and the Rose Bowl is not one of the venues. So then again, you have those two teams that already played in the regular season, the Wisconsin and the Huskies, playing in the Rose Bowl again. Who's going to watch that a second time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Howard, we're up against the top of the 4 o'clock break. Love your call. Appreciate you listening, watching to us, but we need to take a break. If you guys want to wrap that up or not, take a break, 4 o'clock hour.
Yeah, I think, it's again, more bad news for the Rose Bowl, and it's bad news for anything that gets that stuff again. So, yeah, I mean, I think the future of college football is better scheduling. It just, I don't know how that comes out, and I don't know how, they all figure out or who wants who where.
And again, the Big 12 schools, they've got to be wanted. A lot of scenarios, it's like, well, take the Big 12 schools, and it's like, but why take the Big? Why do they take the Big 12 schools other than to give them a safe place, to play and to just have numbers? I don't know value-wise what it really does, and that's why I think you're seeing them kind of on an island by themselves. Is I don't think anybody really knows what value they bring at the moment. But yeah, very interesting idea, and we got to go here, but definitely appreciate your thoughts. Thank you.
Absolutely, all of yours. And on the chat room, there's a lot of you that go back and forth. We're going to read whatever we get as much as we can when we have the time. But 2 guests in the 4 o'clock hour. Eli Letterman now covers Oklahoma State for the Tulsa World. Max Olson, he's the one that had the latest news on the alliances of the Pac-12, the ACC, and the Big Ten. So much to get to. Man, we appreciate you. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. The city of Woodway. Skateboarding, archery, things that are outside of the what you call the bigger type of sports and activities, football, basketball, baseball, and more. And the city of Woodway offers this to you and or your children. In fact, Explore skateboarding clinics continue through this month and in September from ages 6 to 13. You can go to woodwayfamilycenter.com and find the link for that. Also, fun intro clinics that are being hosted for tennis, basketball, and gymnastics. Promote the fact that they have numerous different clinics, including one that has become a big deal. And there's a course in Waco along the Brazos River that is a disc golf course that brings in I mean, state tournaments and more, and they have disc golf clinics right now available with the City of Woodway. The City of Woodway, you go to discoverwoodway.com. 7 hotels in Woodway if you want to stay at any of them. If you come in for a Baylor football game, if you come in for any kind of Little League or youth sports type clinics and or tournaments. City of Woodway, it's family, the WoodwayFamilyCenter.com, and also cityofwoodway.com.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line. Hi, Mark Stewart here with Bird Colgan Ford. Score big with Midway Football and Ford Trucks. It's time to catch football fever and find the perfect Ford truck for your next tailgating party. The Ford F-150 has been America's #1 selling truck for 44 years, and Bird Colgan Ford has the perfect truck for you to drive to your next football game. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the many truck choices at Bird Colgan Ford. Visit us anytime at bkford.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trusted doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Engel with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
That one picked off, and it's a pick six by Jalen Petrie.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, as we continue with a lot of what we discuss, of course, college football, much more. Max Olson today at 4:30. We'll also check in with Georgia Bulldogs today in the 5 o'clock hour. We've, of of course, taking a bunch of your calls, text, and chat messages on realignment, the alliances, and much more. It is something that remains forefront and on the burner. And we're now joined by Eli Letterman, covers Oklahoma State, joins us to talk with us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Eli, you've been there for like less than about a week or so with the Tulsa World covering Oklahoma State, but you've caught up as you are because you're good at what you do. What is and continues to be kind of the atmosphere in Stillwater on right now the Big 12 going forward, or what is the thought in Stillwater?
Guys, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be on with you guys. And yeah, I'm entering week 2 on the Oklahoma State beat, so I'm fresh. But the feel up here, and it's kind of been the tone set by Mike Gundy, is that there's all you can do right now is guess. I don't think anybody beyond Oklahoma and Texas really know what the future holds. And so that's been the stance that's been maintained up here. They're not really letting it seep into this season, 2021, not knowing really what the future looks like. So the vibe here is that A, all we can do is guess, and B, that Oklahoma State, especially on the football field, has positioned itself to feel confident going into the future, whatever that looks like.
So how does he keep it out of the locker room? I'm curious for different coaches. How do you keep it out of the locker room? Even in it, like just for us on our show, just as a thought exercise, people jumping things around.
Of course. I mean, it's pretty hard to ignore, and you can probably take it with a grain of salt when Mike Gundy says he hadn't had a single player mention it to him. That might be hard to believe, but I would imagine that's just the tone as it's been set publicly, that's been set within the program, that there's nothing that's going to change likely, and it'll be news to all of us if it does in the next few weeks or even during this season. So I'd imagine that Mike Gundy and his staff have just set the tone of, look, we're not going to be able to, really have much control over this, so let's keep our eyes on the schedule and on this season and focus there and let everything else play out well above them.
So, Eli, the team's saying the right things. It's very similar to what Dave Aranda said about Baylor and their players. But in terms of the fan base, I mean, I think when this first broke, about 3 weeks ago, obviously the Oklahoma State side of things very personally affected by the fact that OU's involved in this. But as time has gone by now, and there's not exactly like the Big Ten coming calling or the Pac-12 coming calling just yet, is there a little bit of nervousness that's been, kind of more of a buzz of nervousness as the days have gone by?
I mean, I'm sure it's probably the same as all the Texas schools and seeing Texas go. There are nerves, and then I know you guys have Max Olson coming on, so he'll really fill everybody in, and I'll be tuned in to listen to that. Is you see, everything else flying around, and some of these schools in the Big 12, at least per reports, at the risk of getting left behind. So there are those nerves, I think. I also think it certainly helps, at least here in Stillwater, that there is confidence around the team in 2021, and maybe that's a bit of a distraction for now, particularly when there's really no headlines that are telling you where schools like Oklahoma State might be headed.
Where do you think, Eli, when you talk to those that or what are the expectations? And is right now the thought in Stillwater the same as it is in the other 7 cities, that patience is important, but my God, there's got to be some paranoia?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, guys, my guess is as good as anybody's. And I couldn't say where they might be headed or where any of these other schools might be headed. I think the proper way to approach it is with patience. And because the speculation, I think, can only ramp up the pressure on all these schools. And the fact is, I think unless you're at the very highest reaches of all this, and maybe in the boardrooms at ESPN or Fox or any of these conferences, we're all just guessing. And I know that's not the answer that everybody wants. We'd all love to know where things are going or for things to be red hot. But I think just the nature of it all, it's going to be quiet for a little while until it isn't.
Eli, how much concern is there? I mean, I know a lot of places never worry about money because they have, big time sugar daddies or donors to be kinder about it. But T. Boone Pickens passed away a couple years ago. He's no longer with us. How much does that concern Oklahoma State? And then he through his company and his foundation, has been able to keep Oklahoma State at pace with a lot of these facilities and other universities.
Of course. I mean, obviously, I'm just getting settled here, and so I couldn't tell you about the inner sanctum at Oklahoma State. But I think where they do feel confident is that they're maintaining success on the field. I mean, there's been few programs who have been more consistent in winning than Mike Gundy's here in Stillwater over the last 15 years or so, and that certainly helps, whether it's confidence here and making money here, or remaining attractive to either attract people to a new look Big 12 or to head somewhere else, and then on down to some of the other programs here that, despite all the other things moving around them, that winning has kind of continued to happen here at Oklahoma State. And so I would point to that as probably the source of optimism and confidence headed into such choppy waters.
So 8-3 last year. Iowa State was a big win for Oklahoma State. Got the bowl win over Miami. Spencer Sanders is back. Defense looks good. I mean, there's obviously a lot of talk about Oklahoma and Iowa State, but what's kind of the buzz just about the actual team and the expectations for this year in Stillwater?
I think there's confidence. I think, as you said, there's probably Oklahoma State and Iowa State and then everybody else in terms of real contention. But I think Oklahoma State is right in that next year and has as good a shot as anybody at maybe knocking on that door. You mentioned Spencer Sanders coming back. Everyone's going to point to whether he can hold on to the football, and if that's an improvement that he can make, then his talent speaks for itself. I think the most interesting factor with this team is the defense, because it's a rarity, but it was really the team's strength last year, and that's not something you see often with the Oklahoma State team, but it was the strength. And they return a bulk of that defense and a really experienced secondary, talented linebackers, and a lot of depth up front. And so that really might be, in the end, what determines the ceiling of this team is what can that defense do, and can it even make a jump from where it was last year?
Yeah, Oklahoma State has been good. They've won Big 12 titles, but is it one or two?
Like a tied.
Yeah. But and I know that Gundy has a cushion there, and obviously has been entrenched at Oklahoma State. Is there any kind of he's good enough to where we are every year that we have a shot, or is there anything where they're circling the wagons that they want more, and especially with what might happen with college football down the road?
Of course. I mean, I'm only speaking from a pretty shallow, overall knowledge base, given that I just arrived here. But I think, frankly, that if Mike Gundy was going to lose his job, it might have been last summer and all the events that went on off the field. But he recouped that. And then the other question just is, if Mike Gundy is in some world not the guy, who is Oklahoma State bringing to Stillwater that's going to do better than he's done over the last 15 years, 17 years this fall, in terms of winning, because they've done a lot of it, and while they've maybe only broken through, that once or twice to really being there on that stage, and oftentimes the season kind of gets to the Bedlam game, and that's where it comes to an end. He's done a lot of winning, and I don't know that Oklahoma State can really do much better than the man they've got right now.
Eli, what's the kind of conversation like just around the state when it comes to Oklahoma and this move to the SEC?
I think it's quieted a bit. Obviously, at first it was such a shock, and there was the feelings of betrayal and all that. So it has quieted. But I think again, like it's the fact that there's probably not going to be a whole lot more movement during this coming football season. So maybe the focus is somehow onto just football, not what's going on off the field. But I'm certain that's the kind of stuff that'll intensify here and in Texas when Texas and OU get into those meetings with the conference and everyone else, and they try to wiggle out of this, prior to 2025, as everyone expects. I think that's where the animosity might come back up, and come October, November, we're going to start getting into a conference slate where these teams are playing the schools that want to leave. So I think we might be in a bit of a lull right now, whether it's in Oklahoma or Texas, but I have no doubt there will be some fireworks come the fall.
All right. Thank you very much, Eli. We appreciate it. Good luck with what you have with Oklahoma State, the Tulsa World, at By Eli Letterman, Lederman, who covers Oklahoma State, Sikkim 365 Radio.
Yeah, I mean, it's, for any of these schools, I think if you got an Iowa State writer on, which we did last week, or Texas Tech, which we've done, I mean, they're all kind of in the same holding pattern. I mean, same here in Waco, right? If you have had your initial thoughts and your initial reactions, and you're just kind of taking the news in and just seeing where it goes. But, like, as much as that report from Max comes out and everybody's like, oh, my God, like, what did it really change? Like, everything's the exact same that it was. So now it just, if anything, it just dumped gas on speculation. But in terms of actual movement or anything actually changing, nothing has changed since that report a couple of days ago. And it may not change for another 2 months. It may not change for a year. Like, that's the thing is, so much of this is just speculation and wondering. And like Eli said, it's like, hey, thank God there's a football season coming up to at least have some actual games to talk about. But I have no doubts that this will continue to swirl in and out week by week throughout the season. I mean, this is going to be a story all season long, and I don't know how much it'll actually impact games or the mindset of players. Like, I don't know that, like, Oklahoma State gets extra geared up for Oklahoma than they normally would this time around, but it's certainly going to be that kind of side story that just, is there the entire time this year. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to affect. There's not going to be many games it'll affect.
I said on Friday, why would it? Like, if you're RJ Sneed, who was asked about it, Baylor's senior receiver, he's like, we're not really talking about it. Why would you? He's not going to be affected by it. It doesn't matter to him. And for the freshmen, like, they have no idea. Like, why worry about, oh, my God, we're not going to be in the Big 12 after this year? Dude, you got to worry about this season first, because next year might not even matter at all if you don't play well this season. But then you might actually play in the Big 12 for the next 4 years. So what's the point in worrying about it? There's nothing that you can do to change anything as a player. So, if you're going to let it be a distraction, then that's just, a poor decision. There's no reason for it to be a distraction for anybody suiting up this year.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I think the only thing it'll affect is, when Oklahoma and Texas go on the road, like, people are going to boo the crap out of them. But guess what? That was happening anyway. Yeah, so, like, it might just be a more united, like, instead of booing them about disparate things throughout the crowd, it will be one thing, F you, you're leaving. Like, that's going to be the one thing people will boo them about. That's the only difference. I mean, united booing so far.
All right, one text from Daniel. The whole situation makes me sad because I really love the NCAA basketball tournament. This is Daniel. If and when the NCAA implodes, do you see the women's sports forming their own leagues, conferences, governing body? I don't know how Title IX would be affected. Women's sports, none of them are revenue sports. None. None of them are. And without the NCAA or without Title IX or without football and men's basketball, I don't know where they go.
Yeah, that's a good question because, Sankey's whole breaking away from the NCAA thing, not that he's come out and said, like, hey, this is what we're doing, but in so many ways he has. I mean, in every way he has said that he does not like the NCAA and that they need to do something different. But that's a great question because I don't know how that would work. Like, is the ultimate goal for potentially splitting away just for football? Like, is it just a football thing? Or is this like they hope that one day they're going to be in control of the tournament as well? Or, like, you know what I mean? Like, what's the long game?
Well, and Title IX might keep a lot of this stuff together because it's not going. I mean, it was just expanded a decade ago or so, 12, 13 years ago. So Title IX's not going away.
In this environment, you think they're going to get rid of women's sports?
Well, see, and again, you have to, like, right now, all these decisions are made outside of it. When it starts affecting women's sports is when we'll see what the effect of Title IX is.
Yeah.
So what does, for example, for the Big 12, okay, if the money that women's sports are getting goes down because the TV money goes down, believe me, you will see an outcry of different things about, well, hey, now we've got to make sure that, we can still fund all these sports. And so that's what will change it.
That's true. Like, I mean, yeah, you lose, okay, so there's 2 revenue sports. Really, there's 1. That's like 1.5, really. I don't know what, like, Texas and Oklahoma bring eyeball-wise to men's basketball. I mean, they get in the tournament pretty regularly, so there's that money right there. But, yeah, I mean, wow, that's something I hadn't even thought about is how that – because, yeah, like, if Texas and Oklahoma leave and the rights for football alone are going down, then it's pennies on the dollar for, like, volleyball or women's basketball or women's soccer. And if you suddenly don't have those 2 cash cows – yeah, I mean, there's going to be dramatic changes to the remaining programs in those sports because we know that Baylor has been able to spend pretty good money on women's basketball. but there's good money coming in. They're able to do that, and they, obviously have a care for women's basketball. But yeah, if all of a sudden the money's going down dramatically, that's going to have the biggest effect on the sports that aren't bringing in the money. So, yeah, I'm kind of playing with that idea in my head, and that could get ugly for sure. Yeah, I don't know what you do about that.
All right, it's 4:23. We'll have Max Olson coming up in the next segment. Earlier today, we mentioned the Associated Press has released their top 25. Alabama, Oklahoma, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia, 1 through 5. Georgia is all 5 teams receive first place votes from 3 to 1 to 6 votes each. Alabama got 47 of 63. Then other notes of interest: A&M 6, Iowa State 7. Cincinnati's the lone non-power 5 at 8. Notre Dame and North Carolina 9 and 10. Texas is 21st, just outside the top 25 from the Big 12. Oklahoma State, TCU, West Virginia down near the bottom of receiving votes. And I think it's cool, though, when you see Coastal Carolina and the University of Louisiana and Cincinnati and a couple of those teams that have some sort of grip, at least right now, with what they're doing.
Yeah, we never answered that question about the SEC and why people hate it so much that you teased in the last commercial break.
Yeah, I don't think people hate it.
No.
I think they're tired of it.
If you were a part of it, you would love it. If you're not, it's kind of like you can hate the Yankees, you can hate the Lakers, you can hate the Cowboys, and really it's because sometimes you just feel like they're shoved down your throat, and some of those teams are struggling. Lakers were not very good this year. Yankees are struggling right now, just above 500. And the Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl, but still people hate them because they're, everywhere you look. It's the SEC. They have earned the respect of who they are as a conference, period. And now they've just added 2 big monsters when it comes to images. But I don't think there are people who maybe get tired of it, but I don't know if they hate it.
That's where I am. I don't care about it enough to hate it. I think hate's a pretty strong emotion, and I don't care enough about any conference to hate a conference, but I do get tired head over just the constant shoving down the throat that we got there for what felt like a decade on ESPN. That was really where any sort of, I guess, negativity would come from, and there's not really any negative. It's not like I go around like on Twitter talking bad. I don't even talk about the SEC except for on this show, but yeah, I think if anybody has an issue with it, it's just from having, ESPN anchors slam it down your face every 5 seconds during college football season. That's all that is.
All right, when we come back, Max Olson, he's the one that wrote the story, Big Ten, Pac-12, ACC, in discussions about forming alliances, according to sources. He'll explain all that and more, and this is Sikkim 365 Radio. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. Right now, your friend in the car business with Make This the Summer event. 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star. All of this came out today. Total value is up to $6,250 or 2.9% for 72 months plus now $2,000 bonus cash. I think that's gone up since the last time. That's why Ram truck owners are the most loyal in the brand for their brand in the business. Back to back Motor Trend Truck of the Year. And Make This the Summer event with Grand Cherokee Laredo. Total values of $3,500 or 0% for 48 months plus $2,000 in bonus cash. That's the new 2021 Grand Cherokee Laredo. Come in and check out the most prestigious Jeep, the 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee, the L model, the beautiful rugged third row seat Jeep with this incredible Jeep arriving daily. And if you're going to fall in love with the Grand Cherokee, fall in love with the Grand Cherokee L. See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340, and east of 84 in Waco.
Alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor Alumni Program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Carr Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Carr. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Carr Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
At Impact Research Institute, we can help you identify if you have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and measure for liver stiffness or scarring. If you or a loved one has diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension, obesity, or concerns about your liver health, Impact Research Institute may be able to help by providing liver health screenings quickly at no cost, physician counseling, and opportunities to qualify for clinical trials. Visit us at impactresearchtx.com for more.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco, your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
You know, all of this madness of what's happening and change the landscape of college football. Brent Zwerneman, he's the one that started this mess, right? Paul and Craig, he's the one that broke the story, and of course it was true.
Threw a grenade in the room and just ran out real quick.
And then Max Olson just threw a bunch of gasoline just because he's an angry, evil young man on the fire Saturday with his story about the alliance of the Pac-12, Big Ten, and the ACC. We love Max. We love Max. I was kind of decompressing for 2 or 3 days. Max, thank you very much. So, were you digging around for this, or did somebody just plant that in your lap?
I think it's, if I can tell everyone, it was actually Smokey gave me the scoop. Thank you for the scoop, Smokey.
You're welcome, thank you.
No. It's look, I just think we're in a period right now when you have to be careful about the information you get from people, because obviously, like, especially in a case like this, when we got word of this, then you reach out to, people in the 3 conferences, and you kind of get 3 different takes, or much more than 3 different takes on what this looks like, how imminent this would be. It is kind of playing a game of telephone with all this stuff. But, I think we got a sense, leading up to Friday, that this was, even with Kleefkoff meeting with Bowlesby, that this might be an outcome that made a little bit more sense, at least from the standpoint of, look, we can talk about the the scheduling parts of this and the playoff parts of this and all this, but clearly there's a larger political game going on here between Sankey and everybody else, and I think these commissioners do feel like, well, we have to do something, and so this is what it looks like. They feel like working together, and we'll see if it can all come together. But it seems like they have a belief that there's strength in numbers here in a number of ways if these three conferences can get on the same page.
Why would they leave out the Big 12 in this?
Well, a couple reasons. One, you've got members of the Big 12 reaching out to these conferences saying, can we join you, right? So, like, why would you work with the Big 12, those 8, when you maybe don't have a ton of belief of whether that conference is trying to stay together or not, right? I think that does kind of undercut the Big 12's mission here a little bit, that you've got members of, and I don't blame anyone in the Big 12 for trying to pursue spots in other conferences, but I do think that kind of undercuts the progress a little bit. I think, sure, you could say, well, shouldn't all 4 of these conferences work together? But, I think right now these 3 new commissioners are looking for someone to trust, and so they want to trust each other. And I just think right now it is a difficult time to figure out what is the future of the Big 12. And, so I think they felt like they had a little more belief in working together. But it's a good question. I don't know that there's something the Big 12 would have done to disqualify them from voting with these guys and being on the same page as them. It's just this is the direction they went in, and unfortunately, that is from a perception standpoint, that's a pretty tough setback for Bob Bowlesby and the Big 12.
So, Max, there obviously we saw Kirby Hocutt's comments, and I was going to say, like, what do they do next? But you just kind of said it there. You have no idea what they do next. They just, I guess they're just in a holding pattern, huh? And either waiting for invites or just playing this thing out, I suppose.
Well, yeah, there's a couple parts to that. I think that if you're a member of the Big 12 right now, one of the remaining members, I think it gives you a little bit more confidence that these 8 are capable of sticking together, because I think these 3 conferences making this decision suggest that for each of those 3 leagues, expansion is not something that would be like an imminent priority for them. I'm not saying it can't happen down the road here, but I could see them focusing their efforts in that direction. So I think that means the 8 schools probably more likely to stick together here. And I think, honestly, I think next steps here is probably, and I understand the presidents, I'm sure, are pressuring Bowlesby to explore all these options and find, is there some way to get, in bed with these Power 5 leagues and stuff like that. But it sort of seems like they should let Bowlesby and the ADs do their job and turn the focus to expansion. And what do you have to do, in adding, I would assume, 4 to 6 new members to the conference that makes it as strong a football conference as possible and gives you, a better argument for, maintaining that Power 5 status. I think that's the future you got to look at here. In addition to figuring out, when Oklahoma and Texas actually depart, I would think that's kind of the next step for Bowlesby in the conference. But certainly I'm sure there are people who are definitely upset about this development.
Given ESPN's relationship with the American and what those reports were from Bob Bowlesby a couple of weeks ago about basically folding the Big 12 into the American, what would be the enticement for the American schools to want to jump from that ESPN security into this uncertainty that is the Big 12?
Make more money. I mean, they're already reaching out too. They're already reaching out to the Big 12 saying, hey, we're interested if you guys are getting into expansion. I mean, the Big 12, I think, is definitely in a better position here to be the one that's adding schools as opposed to losing schools. And I think even with this, very, very scary threat here that the revenue is from a Big 12 standpoint is heading in a bad direction here without Texas and Oklahoma. I do think if the conference, I think there's still optimism within the conference that you can maintain that A5 Power 5 status. And certainly right now, as we all know, you just don't want to be on the wrong side of that. So I think any of these Group of 5 programs know that if they get, slightly better revenue and more prominence and all that from being in the Big 12, they'll be more successful and they'll be on the right side of this divide here between the haves and have-nots.
How hard do you think, and we'll have Mac on tomorrow, but to be patient, which might be the only way you survive, and also, or possibly, the only way it appears is if you can survive financially for now, and yet This is a conference where nobody has really trusted each other since it started in 1996. How hard do you think that's going to be for the 8 remaining ADs or presidents?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that uncertainty is very tough to live in. I think that, Baylor is fortunate to have Mack Rhoades and Linda Livingstone and have two leaders who are on the same page. And I think, are not the ones in the conference that are going to cause problems in terms of the way they do things. I'm sure that, Mack and Linda have to do everything they can to sort of argue for and fight for whatever options they can create for Baylor. But certainly, yeah, it's not a good feeling to have another setback like this and to have to think about, are we tied to a conference here that's in bad shape? And, what can we do to improve the situation? Because as we've talked about before, the reason you went and chased the Pac-12 and those kind of ideas is because there's just a very real financial fear here that everybody's feeling. That, how much are we having to slash our budgets in this future when the TV partners come back to the Big 12 and say we're not paying full price anymore. And so, any outcome that can fix that stuff you want to pursue. And so when you're taking options off the table like this, then yeah, you're stuck with these 8. And how much do you trust them? Hopefully, everybody understands that they have to cooperate here. But the combination of that uncertainty and knowing that you may be living in this uncertainty for the next few years is tough to swallow.
Max, how much of a concern or how much discussion have you heard about the effect this could have on other sports? I mean, obviously football is the driving factor here, and to a lesser extent men's basketball. We had somebody bring up, like, if you're Baylor or TCU or Iowa State and all of a sudden your revenue is like a third of what it was, I mean, what does that do to volleyball? What does that do to women's basketball? I mean, how much discussion about the collateral damage do you think that there has been?
Oh yeah, that's absolutely a very real fear here, and that's not hypothetical because we just went through it last year. We just went through athletic departments having to brace for, okay, we need to completely rethink our budget here. We need to do furloughs and layoffs and all these things. No matter what financial position you're in as an athletic department. Last year when you're thinking about the fear of not having a college football season, or not having attendance or whatever, I think a lot of schools had to deal with this in a very, very tangible way. So yeah, you are still, like, I remember at the Big 12 Media Days when you talked to Bolt and others, there was a sense that those people were still just kind of getting over how exhausting that whole thing was last year. And now you have to pivot again into thinking about, what kind of cuts does this mean to staffing and sport reductions and how much is recruiting hurt and all that, and not just in football. And so, you're right to bring that up because, unfortunately, that is a real fear here that, when you say things like, oh, well, Texas and Oklahoma are 50% of the TV money, like, that's not a small amount of money. That is a huge, huge difference in your operating budget from year to year.
Max Olson with us, Sikkim 365 Radio. He's with theathletic.com. And, it's interesting. The way the conference is set up, I don't know if we had Don Williams on. We mentioned earlier Kirby Holcutt. It's just like every day one of these ADs or all of them wake up and go, what the hell, man? Like, how much how much of a grip does Bob Bowlesby have with the commissioner's job right now, considering that this conference is on a life support?
That's something that certainly had a lot of conversations on Friday, because that is sort of a natural follow-up question to this is what does this mean for Bob Bowlesby? And I'm sure, I don't have a sense of how bad the fallout was this weekend among Big 12 presidents and ADs. I'm sure there are some presidents who, are really upset about this and really upset about this perception or reality or whatever you want to call it, that, it sort of seems like the Big 12 has been, a few steps behind on this thing. And you remember back when this whole thing began, the leaders of this conference met and talked to each other and walked out of that meeting saying, well, I don't think the Texas Oklahoma stuff is very far along. I don't think it's very imminent. It's not going to happen in the next few weeks. So it's just from that point forward, from being shocked at the Houston Chronicle report on forward, there has been a feeling that in some ways that, Big 12, sure, they're doing the best they can, but they've been a few steps behind here. And look, if you change commissioners, does that really change, many of the particulars of this, of which schools you would look at in expansion and the things that you have to do to survive? Like, not really. And maybe the relationships Bob Bowlesby has throughout college athletics are more beneficial than making a change here. But no question, I think if you were, the CEO of any business that was going through this kind of turmoil, there would be real pressure and real stress on you to, get this right or move on.
Well, on the other side of that coin, it's evident that there were 8 schools in the conference that listened to Bob Bowlesby and trusted him, and 2 that didn't give a crap what he said about anything. So now those 2 are gone, so maybe he'll be better at his job not having to deal with them.
Yeah, no, certainly certainly you're dealing with a lot less deception today than you were over up to this point. So yeah, I think that's fair. I don't think that there are necessarily presidents and ADs here in the Big 12, the remaining Big 12, that are looking to, sort of take on the Texas and Oklahoma role and be the tyrant in this conference or anything like that. So yeah, I think it's possible that, or just to say, well, we're in charge here and we make the calls. I think, some of those dynamics are gone, and hopefully that makes it a little bit easier to operate in this job. But, as we've talked about a bunch, guys, there's just so many dynamics of this, both present day and in trying to figure out where the future is going, that it's a lot to wrap your head around. And I understand it's very upsetting to a lot of people, and I hear it from lots of folks at Big 12 schools that are certainly scared about what the future holds here and upset about how unfair all of this feels. And so I'm not going to debate anybody that all of this is extremely frustrating.
Max, I got to ask you, this is off topic, but I guess it plays into Baylor's, perception a little bit. But last week they did finally get the NCAA ruling. Been a long time coming, as you know. Obviously, there's no winner here because, of the victims themselves, as we talked about last week on this show quite a bit. But your thoughts on, this 5-6 year NCAA investigation wrapping up, and, for Baylor, had to be counting their lucky stars that it wasn't worse. But then again, like we talked about on this show quite a few times, we weren't really sure what even fell under NCAA jurisdiction that they were looking over. So your thoughts on the finality of the Baylor investigation?
Yeah, certainly like a fascinating conclusion they came to, and I'm sure you guys and your listeners, as you go through that, you have to wonder, like, right, why did we spend 5 years on this when they could have probably concluded from the start that this isn't their jurisdiction, right? This isn't their place to make these judgments on sexual assault scandals. But certainly very, very interesting. I think I'm glad that Dave Aranda and his players, for the most part, aren't receiving, strict punishments for things they had nothing to do with. Obviously, that's, that would be unfair to them. I think, certainly, like, disappointing, some of the rhetoric from Art Briles' camp, not surprising, but to say he's been vindicated in all this, if you read the report, I certainly wouldn't say that's the case, and certainly I he may think so, but Art Briles is not the real victim in this story, obviously. But yeah, I think it was an interesting piece to read, because clearly this committee wanted to do more and was frustrated that they felt they couldn't do more. But certainly when you drag this thing out as long as you did, and aren't even sure if you have the power to do the things you want to do, it just goes to show you just how toothless the NCAA is and all this stuff that they try to do. And that's why we're in a moment here where a lot of this stuff needs to be reconsidered.
Yeah, and from the beginning, so many things about what should happen to Baylor. And, of course, everyone has an opinion about what a lot of things that could have happened. But in the end, Penn State showed us a lot of things with what Emmert tried to do to them and lost. and then of course others along the way. And it's I think it's people have to understand North Carolina.
Go on and on here.
If they'd hammered Baylor, then Baylor would have sued them, and they probably would have lost.
Yep,
right. The NCAA would have lost that.
Yep,
I think.
absolutely.
So that's why you get the outcome.
Yep.
You know,
they could have written a shorter report and said we can't win lawsuits. So
that's a really we want to do this, but we've already lost a lot of money along the way.
But reading through that, guys, I mean, to spend 5 years on this, I don't think it satisfies anybody to read through that and see, well, here's the part where we got them on the parking fines.
Right.
Like, I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even people who wanted to see them hammered after the fact, I heard from plenty of people who are like, what was the point of this? Like, ultimately, what was the point of this? And nobody has an answer for that. Yeah, it's a weird deal.
No.
All right, Max, go back into your big bunker and go create another negative story.
No, he had a very positive one that you didn't bring up from a couple weeks ago. He's talking about the list of things that he can't wait to experience with your kid for the first time, right, when it comes to college football. You wrote that a couple weeks back.
Yeah, the next time I see my kid and I can get out of my office, it's great to share this college football season. But no, I'm kidding. But, hey, you said at the start that Brent Zwerneman started all this, and I just wonder, like, did he really get those two schools into the SEC? That's amazing.
I know. How powerful is he? I mean,
Talk about college football czar. Yeah, there you go, Brent Zwerneman.
What an incredible betrayal of A&M by Brent, but, I mean, good for him.
Exactly.
Max, we love your segment with you whenever we get it. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Max Olson from day one with us on Sikkim 365 Radio.
I do have this, and I don't want to read his whole piece because, for one, we don't have the time, but also you need an athletic sub. But, we were talking just a few moments ago and talking with Max about the ramifications of, the money going down and the effect that could have on, other sports that are non-revenue sports. So basically every sport but football. But this one piece from this article that Max wrote, West Virginia Athletics was working on a $93 million budget for 2021 before the pandemic hit and ended up at a nearly $25 million deficit for the fiscal year. AD said they're maintaining 10% budget cuts across all sports going forward. They're working hard to climb out of this like everyone else in their league. The financial challenges of the past year make clear what's at stake if the Mountaineers aren't in a P5 league whenever this phase of realignment wraps up. And I just thought that perfectly encapsulated what we were just talking about a little while ago, that, last year was a hit. You can only imagine what, permanent hits would be like, and it wouldn't be good for a lot of sports outside football.
But and the thing is, last year they made those, and think about what Texas and Oklahoma are doing.
And everybody made them too. Yeah. Like everybody had to.
But everybody's making these budgets and cuts knowing that, or believing that there's going to come back and be the same.
Yeah.
Well, it's not now.
Right.
So now you have to go back to the drawing board again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, man, it's just here we are a month or so. When was that story popped?
About 3 weeks ago.
About 3 weeks ago.
Maybe a month. It was
one of the things it's done, and I just looked at this on 365 Sports, the YouTube channel, which a lot of you listen or watch or both. Nearly 9,000 subscribers now to what we do every day. That doesn't mean you're always with us every day. We appreciate that. Some of you have joined us recently. We appreciate it. We're on every afternoon between 3 and 6. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Hayden is behind the scenes. A-Rob Armstrong, also jacked at times as well. He did a lot over the weekend covering Baylor soccer down in the Houston area. Lost 2-0 to Texas A&M. 5 o'clock hour, we'll hear from a writer that covers Georgia, ranked 5th in the AP preseason poll. And I heard your segment as I was driving up to Dallas on Friday. By the way, both you guys, incredible show Friday when I could hear it. You had the Bet US guy saying that he thinks Georgia, that even though they're in the top 5, that there's people are sleeping on them. Well, they have a history of whenever they kind of have like a lot of programs. They've been good. They've been elite lately. My God, it took a Tua, right? Was it Tua on the touchdown pass to beat them in the national championship game? Otherwise, they do win one. But they do tease people a lot.
Yeah, I just reminded myself, I need to correct something. I said Oklahoma State had a split title. They had an outright title several years ago in football. I just randomly popped into my head. But, we had a fun show on Friday, and Georgia's going to be right there in the mix. But I think it's kind of like with Oklahoma, if you go all the way back to 2000, their last national championship, they've appeared in nearly a handful of national title games since then and have lost every single one of them. And lost a couple playoff games included or in that same time frame. And so now you just kind of are conditioned to just think like, hey, they're probably not going to win the big one, right? Because they're going to be really, really good. They're going to win 10, 11, 12 games, but they're probably not going to win the big one. I think with Georgia, people are kind of conditioned to be like, yeah, they're going to be really good. They can contend, but not necessarily going to win the big one just because you haven't seen them do it in a long time. But no, they're going to be right there in the mix. Like we said earlier in this preseason poll, there's a handful of teams that you could make a strong case for. Georgia, Oklahoma, Clemson, Bama, Ohio State, etc. So it's going to be a fun year, and I'm very intrigued by what they do.
What I like to do, and I know we got to take a break before the top of the 5 o'clock hour. What I like to do is look at the whole top 25. Somebody outside the top 10. Who's it going to be that will play in the college football playoff? Because I'm not saying it will happen every year or happens every year. Somebody outside the top 10, and there's a lot of brand names outside the top 10, will be a part of it at some point. It's kind of, at times you have your 8 to 9, 10, if not even a smaller group that will be in the elite, in the top 5 or 6 most of the year. But somebody, who will it be right outside the top 10 if you have a guess on who that might be? When we come back, 254-339-1122, Sikkim 365 Radio.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street here in Waco. A hidden gem, you heard me talking about it. Great selection of craft beer, great selection of wines and spirits and all that. But Steve Chapman told me last week, look, you got to start pushing these high-end bourbons we have, and they are fantastic what they've got. An amazing array of them, like Pinhook, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas More, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service, too. So you walk in and say, hey, I would like this high-end bourbon. Believe me, if they don't have it, they can get it for you, or they'll find out when that or how they can get it. And they just got I told you. Great stuff that they have there. If you're a bourbon aficionado like myself. And again, great customer service and a speedy drive-through window, so you don't have to go in and ask for it. You just walk in and say, I'd like a bottle of Bardstown, please, and they'll hand it out the window. You make your payment, and you're on your way. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BETUS. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SICK'EM125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125.
At Marco's Pizza, get craveable pizza made the Italian way with dough made from scratch, an original sauce recipe, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and premium toppings you love, served hot and safe. Right now, you can get unlimited medium one-topping pizzas for just $6.99 each. Why stop at just one? Order with your app or at marcos.com for curbside, carryout, or delivery today. Marco's, pizza lovers get it.
Grant Dideker, under the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. And you have this umbrella. We mentioned the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, but you serve more than just like home insurance, or you have all sorts of different levels of different things you cover.
Yeah.
How much does that help?
You know, I talked to a guy today. He has Allstate on his car, Progressive boat, and, Farmers on his home. So I said, why don't you, do you know your agents? No, I just call that 800 number. Why don't you just let me quote that and we can have it all here? It makes it a lot less complicated for you. He really liked that. So we have auto, home, life, several different brokerage options, classic cars. Got to ride in a 1978 Ferrari one time.
Grant Dittaker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. If someone wants to contact you, just straight on your cell phone?
Yep, 254-265-0442.
Grant Dittaker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, a McLennan County agent.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Do it today by searching Sikkim 365 on YouTube.
All right, here we go, 8:06. Whatever it's worth, I hope people support theathletic.com. That's one of the sites. That's what Max Olson joined us. I don't know what it is. I think I pay like $1 a month for that or whatever it might be.
If you're paying full price, you're doing it wrong. I'm just going to say.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
There's no reason other than if you just want to pay full price. They offer deals so often, there's really no reason at all to pay full price because you just wait long enough and there's going to be 6 months for $1 a month. Like it's guaranteed.
Armstrong, I agree. Armstrong, do you have this picture, the one from Vegas with Scott Drew? And this is from late last night. This is the NBA Summer League. I believe we have a picture. Yep, there we go. Scott Drew, among others. Can you name all of those people?
There's Mark Vital. There's, I can't see everybody. Freddie Gillespie.
Obim Okiki's third from the left.
Okay, Okiki, I couldn't see him. Davion Mitchell, Jake Lindsey, Maceo Teague, Jakis, and Jared Butler.
And right there in front is Austin Mills, who's a part of sort of social media.
Austin Mills.
Former Baylor guard.
Let me tell you about Austin Mills. If you want to see Austin Mills quite a bit, Austin Mills is in a Firefest documentary on Hulu.
Oh, really?
He's one of the dudes
he went to Firefest.
who went to Firefest.
Wow.
And yeah, he's one of the guys. And, it totally fits his personality. But, I remember thinking, what? He kept turned to this documentary and I went, Austin Mills went to Firefest?
Former Baylor guard. He's now at NBA social host. Mm-hmm. So you have across left to right. Scott Drew just won a national title. Vital was on that team. Obim Okiki's been a graduate assistant, former player at Baylor. Freddie Gillespie, the tall guy. He's with the Raptors. Austin Mills in the middle, part of the NBA social host, former Baylor guard. Then you have Davion Mitchell, who's lit up the Summer League with what he's done. They played tonight against Boston for the Summer League championship. Then there's Jake Lindsey, former Baylor guard, who's now with the Utah Jazz. Yep. Maceo Teague with the Utah Jazz just signed yesterday, part of the national championship. John Jakis, assistant coach, part of the national championship. Jared Butler, Utah Jazz, drafted in the second round, a part of the national championship.
So there's technically three full-time NBA guys, counting Freddie, and then a couple who are on the bubble out of that group. And then, that's a group that didn't exist 3 years ago in the NBA in any way, shape, or form. Like Jake Lindsey was starting to dip his toes in, but everybody else has all joined in the last 2 years, basically. Yeah. And if there was a knock on Scott Drew's program there for a while, it was okay, can't win the Big 12 title. They did that. And, a little 2 for 1. Can't say he can't win a national title either. Knocked that out. But if there was anything else, it was that if they could improve upon, it would be their representation in the NBA. I mean, that's what you really now you've got a national title. You build on that. You win more championships, of course, but you also build your pro stock, and I think they've done a really good job of that, of putting guys in the league, and even guys who weren't draft picks. I mean, Maceo Teague signing with the Jazz. I mean, that's incredible for him. Vitals, or not Vital, but Ish Wainwright. I mean, we didn't even bring him up. He's signed by the Raptors. I mean, he's been a great story in Summer League. I mean, this has been a Summer League filled with Baylor storylines and players, and it's been really cool to see that.
All right, the chat room continues on YouTube. Also, thanks to those of you watching it. Phone lines 254-339.
They've doubled their NBA reps in the last 2 years? Easily?
I think so.
Easily.
Yeah, and they've had some that have come and gone and some that have been in Europe, a ton that have been in Europe, But, I think so. With alone this year with Butler, Vidal, Teague, and obviously Davion. Now, who of them hits? Butler's number 9 pick. Davion. But Maceo Teague went into that summer league and is averaging 15 points a game.
Yeah.
So there we are with that.
I'm not surprised about that at all with Maceo.
No, I'm not
There's
either.
nothing that's like. I think he did not get drafted for one reason. He has a weird looking shot. But so did Charles Barkley.
My concern was not the shot; it was the time it took to shoot it.
Yeah,
like that little hesitation.
But that's what NBA coaches do. They figure out how to work it. But I think that's why he wasn't drafted, because of the defensive players in the draft, he was in the top 7. I mean, probably. The number 1 defensive player in the draft is probably Davion Mitchell, and Maceo Teague was not that far behind him defensively.
Maceo Teague, I thought, again, the Final Four team or the last weekend, he should have been an all-tournament team ahead of
Drew Timme.
Timmy's a great player. He is. But I thought for the Final Four that Maceo Teague should have been a part of that. And again, you still end up with 2 or 3 guys. All right, when we come back, we will check into that 5 o'clock hour, including we have Georgia on the platter today, the Georgia Bulldogs. And we'll have that and more. Paul's Top 5 in less than an hour, and Sikkim 365 Radio. Petty Clinic, LowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be. And maybe as you've grown older, who you used to be. It's part of Father Time. It's part of Mother Nature. It's part of whatever your body does as it gets older. And one of the things that happens inside of your body is it can be your testosterone level drops. Testosterone creates energy, creates a lot of things. In fact, 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Lethargic, lack of energy, that's 1. Sleeping issues, that's 2. And then, of course, your sex drive can completely just change dramatically. And so you watch TV now, like every commercial break, there's some sort of ED commercial or some sort of way to get your drive back, your sex drive back, your manhood back, whatever it might be. Dr. Kent Petty can help you with that as well. He can get you set up to get your blood work. How do you contact him? Petty Clinic, LowT.com, top left-hand corner, number and email. Tell him I sent you. And then get your blood levels checked. And if your testosterone levels are too low, he can put you in a program to increase your testosterone levels so you can become the high-performance man you want to be, you used to be, and you need to be at Petty Clinic, LowT.com.
Nothing beats fall, football, and Ford. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. The Friday night lights at Midway High School ignite that electric feeling. And Bird Colgin Ford, we have some cool electric vehicle options as well. Come put your custom order in today for the all-new Mach-E or Ford Lightning. Enjoy the electricity and the lightning speed on the football field and nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness was built to help give you a chance to enjoy an elite tennis facility, but also to remain fit and reshape your body. And ahead of the curve with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman and courts available. Like your body, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness has gone through its own physical changes. Large flat screen stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available with their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Beautiful sound of members working out, running, lifting, stretching, group exercise classes throughout each day. Personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. New look bar bar and lounge area with beer and wine with large flat screens, new touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and both include showers, sauna, and whirlpool, and a world-class tennis courts facility and youth academy led by Pro Britt Cole. Fitness and tennis merchandise and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. It's time to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobbettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasoning, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Purdy escapes, throws downfield, and intercepted. Kalen Barnes comes up with it.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Anthony Dasher, who covers Georgia for UGA Sports Rivals.com, will join us at 5:20. Paul's top 5 at 5:55. Here's an email. Craig shared this with me from Jane Harville, who's a professor on the Baylor campus. The other day, I decided to compare the football 2019 depth chart with this one, this year. Like most of the predictions, I was thinking about 6 or 7 wins. After comparing the two depth charts position by position, I think the team may win 8 or 9. Which positions besides quarterback do you think the 21 depth chart is better, equal, or worst compared to the 2019 depth chart? I thought this might generate a lot of discussion on the radio. Enjoy the show, Jane. Thank you very much, Dr. Harville. Man, I don't have the depth chart in front of me. I think I do. Craig, did you dig into this at all?
No, I can. I can look at it if I can pull up the 2019 depth chart.
While you're doing that, a couple of other notes. In baseball, no, we have a chat room donation. Todd Lee. We surprised Todd today. He's a big Oklahoma State fan. We had the Oklahoma State writer, Eli Letterman. Go Pokes, 8th best record versus the top 25 since 2010. 10th most top 25 wins since 2010. 4th best non-conference record since 2010. If Oklahoma State was a country, they would rank 35th in the world for gold medals in the summer games. I didn't know that. I knew they had been good, consistently really, really good. And then sometimes, man, they kind of blow a tire, but that's pretty good stuff. Todd, thanks for the chat room donation as well.
Yeah, definitely thanks for the dono. And since I am in charge of placing conferences with schools, Oklahoma State now gets in. They're going to be a part of so thanks for doing that. I'm not going to have the Pokes in one of these things. No, thank you, seriously, for that.
Without getting too detailed, let's go over some of the groups.
Well, I mean, it's a depth chart comparison, so we kind of need to get detailed. But, okay, let's start off with wide receivers. In 19, you had Chris Platt, Marcus Jones, Denzel Mims, and R.J. Sneed. Right now, you got Tyquan Thornton, R.J. Sneed, Josh Fleeks, and we'll leave it there.
Well, Denzel Mims in 19 was really good. R.J. Sneed made plays as well, young at the time.
I'm taking this year's. I'm taking a senior Thornton, a senior Snead, a senior Fleeks, and all the 17 other guys they got behind that, including Drew Estrada. I'm taking that over.
All right.
Marcus Jones.
So wide recievers for 21.
Yeah, Chris Platt. I mean, a sophomore Snead. Offensive line, you had Galvin Tecklenburg, Fru Morgan, Pines, and Bettier. This year's will be better. I would hope so.
The 19?
Probably not the 19. Probably not the 19.
Because 19 still had some grinders, and they found a way to be able to be in a championship game and also in a Sugar Bowl.
But at the same time, though, it's a sophomore Galvin. It's Fru Morgan wasn't great. I'd give the nod to them, but I don't think it's like far and away they're so much better than this year.
To be determined.
Yeah,
because we don't know anything after what we saw from 2020.
So O-line, I guess we go that way. Tight ends, Rob Sala and Christoph Henley in 19 versus this group, taking this group. Running backs, Jermichael Hasty, Treston Ebner, John Lovett. That one's a little bit more curious, but I'm probably taking this group as well. I'm probably taking Treston Ebner as a senior. I'm taking, Hasty, and actually, I'll go 19 there. I go 19 with Ebner.
Yeah, no, because you had Hasty in that mix. Yeah.
So I'd go 19 there.
He's in the NFL.
So, I mean, that's the offense. So, we'd go 19 with the O-line and the running backs. I'd go 21 everywhere else. And quarterback 2, Charlie Brewer over whoever's going to be the quarterback this year. So, 19 would actually have more of a favorable edge on offense. Okay, quickly on defense. Defensive line, Lockhart Roy, James Lynch.
Not even a discussion. You can't argue with 2019. Right. Golly, they were dominant.
Linebackers, Blake Lynch, Clay Johnston, Terrell Bernard, Henry Black versus Logan Ashton, Dylan Doy, Terrell Bernard, Jalen Petrie. I'm taking this year's, I think.
Okay. All right. All right.
Am I just playing this game?
No, I've given you something.
I'll take this year's.
Okay. I'll take this year's linebackers. Secondary, Raleigh Tejada, JT Woods, Christian Morgan, and Kalen Barnes for this year versus Raleigh Tejada, Graylin Arnold, Chris Miller, and Jamison Houston.
Man,
I'll take this year's, I think. No, actually, I'm going to take
Graylin
2019.
Arnold's in the NFL.
2019.
Yeah, I'll take 2019. That one's tough. I mean, in 6 weeks, I might change my mind, but right now, I'll take 2019.
So really, the only group you're giving them on defense is linebacker. I mean, we could get safety and corner and all that, but it's all pretty much the same. So I think 19 actually probably go 5-3 overall, something like that, or 4-2 or whatever.
Well, they were also 10-3 or 11-3, whatever they were. Played for a Big 12 title, almost beat Oklahoma twice, didn't. But had them in the first game in trouble.
Yeah, so just quickly looking at it that way, I defer to 2019, who did go 10-3 and nearly beat Oklahoma for a title. But I don't think 21's far off. I don't think it's totally far off. But 19, I would definitely give the edge to.
Oh, yeah, I don't think I agree with you, Craig. It's not far off. It's not been that long. And so these guys know. And I do think that you have to take last year for many people with a grain of salt and then see what this team is like with a full roster that's healthy most weeks. I mean, so, and that's not COVID sick. It's just, maybe they have an injury bug. Who knows? Nobody knows when that's going to happen. But, yeah, if you're going to play every week and have a normal season, then I think the team's going to be better. And you've talked about that for a long time.
Yeah. All right. By the way, speaking of Jermichael Hasty, somebody put this up on Twitter. I wish I could give you the credit for who did it, but I appreciate it. 49ers will be without Elijah Mitchell for the rest of the preseason, abductor strain. Because the 49ers have to cut the roster to 85 on Monday, this is from Kyle Shanahan, could be an opportunity for Jermichael Hasty to make the roster. Impress Shanahan Saturday, 10 carries, 63 yards, and a touchdown and a 5-yard catch. He's also tremendous in pass protection.
Yeah, well,
for a little guy.
NFL cuts are about to start happening tomorrow. They'll have to get down to 85 man, and so we'll see a bunch of cuts tomorrow. Then by next Tuesday, they got to get down to 80, so they'll have another 5 cuts, and then the last day of the month, so 2 weeks from today, 2 weeks from tomorrow, actually, they'll have to get down to 53. So every Tuesday for the next 3 Tuesdays, there will be a cut down to 85 tomorrow, down to 80 the next Tuesday, down to 53 the following Tuesday. So a lot of bodies going to be getting cut here in the next 3 weeks.
I did see a lot of the younger quarterbacks playing this weekend. Lance, obviously, there are there were a lot of people going nuts over Justin Fields in Chicago. And be careful, even though it's nice to see a young quarterback look like they know what they're doing. I keep hearing, Paul, and you're our Cowboys guy, and I watch him, and that Garrett Gilbert, From what I've seen, he's manageable. Are there better options? Sure, but
there are better options probably on other people's roster. There's not better roster people you can go get now. So, yeah, Garrett Gilbert's the best option they have right now. And we'll see what happens after the cuts and people assess their salary cap at certain positions. Yeah, he's their best option right now, but he was 7 of 16 in a preseason game the other night. So I don't think he's not getting anybody really excited, but if he can bus drive the thing with the first team offense for a game or two, that's probably fine. And let's be honest, most years there's not a Tom Brady waiting in the wings when Drew Bledsoe gets hurt. If your starting quarterback is out for the year, you're done. That's how it works in the NFL. So, yeah, what you want is a good backup quarterback who can keep you in the race. But if your quarterback's out for the whole year, then most of the time they're not Nick Foles sitting around for the opportunity of a lifetime.
All right, we'll have Anthony Dasher here in a minute on Georgia. This is a text on the line from 304. This is Joey Foster. Love the show. Have a question. Should the ACC decide to expand, for example, take on a West Virginia or another team, they would have to rewrite the TV contract, and then would that not give a Clemson or Florida State the opportunity to jump out of that deal because it's being changed to the SEC?
I guess maybe. Again, we've heard a lot about West Virginia for a long time, and in this whole time, and the ACC could have had West Virginia multiple times over the years and hasn't done it. So I don't know why they'd be excited about it right now, because West Virginia needs them more than they need West Virginia.
Did he bring up West Virginia in that?
The ACC expand to take on West Virginia and one other team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know why the ACC is expanding.
Because it would be in response to other people expand. Which a lot of people jump to the conclusion that that's one thing that I've seen quite a bit of is like the call earlier, and I'm not disagreeing or knocking it or anything. It's just that I don't think it's as simple as just like everybody go to 16. I don't think that's where we're headed. So this idea that conferences have to add anybody, I think is just more it's wishful thinking than anything else, because the way we sit right now, nobody has to add anybody. I mean, the ACC doesn't have to make a move. SEC doesn't have to make any more moves. Big Ten doesn't have to make a move. Pac-12 doesn't need to make a move. I mean, the only one that really needs to make a move is the Big 12. And I might have said differently for the other ones, if not for the whole alliance saying that they now have. Mm-hmm. So those three conferences don't need to expand because they've basically expanded by two more conferences, in some way. So, I don't think everybody's feeling the rush that maybe the fans are, that, you need to go out and grab a couple of teams. Now, if that were the case, and I think these last 3 weeks would have been a lot crazier, and I think you'd be hearing a lot more about jumping ship and all that. But right now it's just, a lot of wishful thinking and a belief that, everybody's going to be at some round number when all is said and done. But I don't think that's going to be the case.
Before we break to come back with the Georgia writer, Tristan McKenzie, for Cleveland. Is that right, Paul? He pitches for Cleveland. He pitched for Cleveland? Mm-hmm. He had a perfect game into the 8th inning yesterday. Was it yesterday? I believe it was. I know. You're scoffing because I can't remember. I'm trying to. He had a perfect game. It was just like a year or two ago when he was basically almost out of baseball. And had a perfect game. A weekend where pitchers who were kind of out of nowhere. He's a good young talent. But how about this with Tyler Gilbert of Arizona? His first start in Major League Baseball and throws the 8th no-hitter of the year. The most no-hitters, I think, in baseball since the 1800s, the first year they started throwing overhand.
Is that what had no-hitters? People couldn't use
and
the overhand?
As soon as I heard the story about Tyler Gilbert, I said, okay, he has to be the first pitcher to ever throw a no-hitter in his opening start.
No, he's like the fourth.
He's the fourth to do it. Most recently, 1953, a guy named Bobo Holloman.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, with the Field of Dreams game that was the other night, which was fantastic, and then this, it's a great moment for, dads and kids playing baseball, because Field of Dreams is about, all about playing baseball with your dad, essentially, at the end of the day. But did you see any of the highlights of Tyler Gilbert's dad during this thing?
Yeah, that's all I saw.
He was fired up. It was so awesome to see. Probably even as good as watching the game was watching his dad so excited.
So there's a couple of baseball notes from the weekend, two young pitchers who stole the show, so to speak. All right, when we come back, we'll discuss Georgia Bulldogs football with Anthony Dasher of UGA Sports. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Waco Custom Marketplace, the specials for this week, August the 16th through the 21st. They're open Monday through Friday and also on Saturday for quite some time at 425 Lake Air Drive. T-bone steaks are $8.75 a pound. Porterhouse steaks, $9.25 a pound. Pork steaks for $1.99 a pound. Fresh chicken drumsticks, 99 cents a pound, and also 25% off on all deli cheese and all board head lunch meat. At Waco Custom Marketplace, they have a butcher shop for what you want, your steaks cut a certain way, and then also they have a bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single morning. Great place to also get what you need for a regular grocery shopping for certain things like boxed dinners or Rotel tomatoes or pasta, bread, as I mentioned before. And if you want, when you walk in the front door to the right, they have fresh, cold beer and also wine available and soft drinks as well. Waco Custom Marketplace, hometown grocery store at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Make this a summer event as rocking at Allen Samuels with the 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star with total values up to $6,250 or 2.9% for 72 months plus $2,000 in bonus cash. The 1500 Crew Cab has the top safety rating and is ranked #1 in full-size pickup trucks. Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trust the doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We have gone all over the country looking at various programs, some that are ranked very high, some that are just a part of perhaps where they are when it comes to realignment, or both. And Georgia, of course, a part of the SEC, highly ranked again and very high expectations. We go into their backyard and try to figure out where everything is with Georgia and what the fan base thinks as well. Anthony Dasher, UGA Sports, part of the Rivals.com network, joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio. Is Georgia underranked, Anthony, at 5?
14th, we're above them right now. These are teams that have all been there, done that as far as the playoffs go. So now I think Georgia's probably situated about where they need to be, considering, what they've got coming back. And again, look at what those other teams above them have done historically.
JT Daniels steps in at quarterback, and there's been some flux since I know Justin Fields transferred and Jake Fromm left. Does this bring a little stability to them now because he'll be there for a couple years?
No question about that. I mean, JT, last year was such a cluster in so many ways. Starting out with Texas Bennett, and of course JT wasn't really healthy enough until the week after the Florida game. They played Mississippi State rather when he got his first action. But now he's been with the program a year. He's learned the system. He got in 4 games last season. Was very effective, and he's one of the biggest reasons that Georgia, is feeling pretty good about themselves. So I think they finally got that quarterback who can open things up and make things a lot more exciting on the offensive end, which you need to do in this day and age of college football if you want to have designs of winning the championship.
Anthony, what was your take on the Oklahoma and Texas news about 3 weeks ago, and what have been your thoughts as you've seen this kind of continue on to the point where they're accepted in and we don't know when they're going to start play? But from the SEC point of view, what are your thoughts?
I'm all for it. I mean, it was kind of funny. I mean, I was at SEC Media Day when all this was going down, and the funny thing about it was it happened like just right before Jimbo Fisher took the stage, which the timing could not have been more perfect, for that. But personally, I mean, I like seeing it. I think obviously Oklahoma and Texas are going to bring a lot to the conference, just from a pedigree standpoint, and what they've done historically, their fan base. I mean, two crazy fan bases who love their teams, and I think it's going to be great. I'm very excited. I know there's some, maybe some old school people want to keep the SEC like it is, but hey, I'm all for it. It's kind of ironic too. Actually, Oklahoma and some of their athletic administration was actually in Athens this past week, kind of meeting with Josh Brooks, JD here, and kind of going over, checking out the facilities here, kind of making some comparisons. So, but yeah, I think. They're two great fits, and I'm personally, I welcome both, wholeheartedly.
Anthony, you could tell us the truth. They were there like 5 or 6 months ago, too, weren't they? When they were, you don't have to just say recently, although that makes sense. Obviously, they got to do their reconnaissance and due diligence as well.
Right.
When you look at the SEC, we know about the national title. We know Alabama's got a chunk, but not just Alabama. Others do as well. Sure. Is the conference, in your opinion, it's strong? Everyone knows it. But is it soft in the midsection or underbelly?
There's some teams I think you can probably look at and definitely say that. I know in the East, I mean, Tennessee is definitely rebelling. It's going to be a couple of years. Vanderbilt is Vanderbilt. I think Kentucky, to their credit, is playing. Is got some better athletes under Mark Stoops. I'm still not. They're still not ready. I don't think to contend in the East, but you got them. Missouri is a fair to Midland team in the West. Of course, you still got Mississippi State still trying to get back up, and Lane Kiffin's trying to find a defense. If he can never find a defense, Ole Miss may be pretty good. But there's definitely, I think, a case can be made for. You probably got three. I'm gonna say 2 really really good teams. After that, you've got probably two very good teams. And after that, it's kind of you can probably pick and choose a little bit. But top heavy league, I'd agree with that. I mean, I would agree with that.
I know all things are loaded for bear for that Clemson game, and it may not matter what the outcome of that game is for either team if it's close. But schedule-wise this year, lines up. It's kind of funny that Clemson kind of has the same thing with their schedule, is that this kind of lines up for the Bulldogs, doesn't it?
Oh, no question. I mean, you take Clemson out of the equation. I think the AP poll came out today. I think Florida was the only other team with Georgia's schedule that's ranked right now. So, yeah, definitely it shapes up pretty good with Georgia, even if, the Bulldogs do happen to lose to Clemson. And Clemson, of course, they dominate the ACC rather, so much over the last few years. You don't really see that change. So, if they lose to Georgia, they've got a very, very good chance of running the table, winning a conference game, getting right back into the playoffs.
Anthony, I hate to bring the mood down, but what is the latest, if anything, on Eric Gilbert and his status? For those that don't know, the transfer from LSU, former 5-star guy, and he's away for some personal issues. What's your understanding about kind of where that is at this point?
Well, there's been a lot of different stories about that. Some erroneous information came out today. I would like to set it straight on that. First of all, number one, kid is not suspended. Now, that came out today in some stories. That is definitely 100% not true. Eric is, of course, he has some issues at LSU, as well. And what we understand, I'm trying to think of a good way to put it, mental behavioral issues.
Okay.
Stuff that kind of needs some medication. And he's been with a practice, I think, one day, but he was also, he has been still at the football facility, just has not been on the practice field. So he has taken some, according to Coach Smart, has taken some time to kind of get straight. Ron Corson, the team trainer, is working with him. And I suspect he'll be back at some point. Sitting here today, I'm not sure how much he will contribute, but a lot of the rumors maybe that you've heard about him, getting in an argument, fight, whatever, with Kirby Smart at practice, being suspended. Neither one of those things are true. Now, I've talked to like 3 or 4 people at Georgia. They adamantly say that wasn't the case. So it's definitely a blow. I mean, he was going to be a guy who was going to come in and contribute at the X position. Of course, moving receiver from tight end was going to be a big boost. But of course, George losing George Pickens for the majority of the year. But now it's a little bit question about what's going to go on with him this season. But he is still part of the program. Just a question of when he's going to get back.
Okay, how much did the loss to Alabama, with that basically not quite Hail Mary, but pretty close to that, how much does that still eat away at Georgia?
Oh, quite. I mean, they won't say it publicly, but I think quietly it took a lot of up. I mean, you don't get that close to winning the national championship, have it snatched away like that on a great play by Tua, at that point in time to win it. But that was definitely a heartbreaker. I mean, that's one that Georgia wins that. I mean, the perception of the program right now is completely changed and all that kind of stuff. But that was a heartbreaker for Georgia fans. I'll just say that. And I don't think it's one that's going to be soon forgotten. The only thing that's going to take care of that is Georgia actually getting it done. As they have to make it to the title game this year.
How much does Kirby Smart want to be that first assistant that beats Saban?
Oh, a lot. I mean, he's never going to say that publicly, but I get knowing the competitor that Kirby is, and I can promise you he wants to be that first one. And we'll see. I mean, every assistant that's lined up against Coach Saban that's gone down, but we'll see what happens if they have to beat the title game this year. But no doubt that Kirby, I think, would love to be that first one.
Back to what Craig asked you about when you heard the news about Texas and Oklahoma, and you love it, and I think most people probably do, unless they're now kind of in a way trying to fake. Wait, what about us? Which is normal too. If in fact, and they're going to be there, whether it's in a year or 2 or 4. Yep. How do they set up the conference? We've seen about the 14 pods, the East and West changes. Auburn has some natural rivalries in the East that perhaps. How do you think that ends up, and how much will there be behind the scenes? No, Alabama cannot come to the East Division.
I'm sure there'll be some of that, but I'll be honest with you, the easiest thing for them to do is have 2 18 divisions, move Alabama and Auburn to East Division. That way, Texas and Oklahoma can stay in the West and play a team closer to them. I think that's just the natural way to do it. And I've seen all these, scenarios with pods and this, that, and the other. But to me, that's just too convoluted. I don't know. I mean, maybe somebody started and we can figure that out. But I just like to see them just stay play 18 divisions, move Alabama and Auburn over. And like you said, they can keep their natural rivalry. Alabama with Tennessee and Georgia with Auburn. They keep that would have to change the thing around. So I'd say go 2 18 divisions. All
right. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Great stuff. Georgia Bulldogs. Anthony Dasher from UGA Sports, part of Rivals.com. Thank you, Anthony, for the show. I think he answered some things, and with the conference, there's no question it's a powerful place, and it's about to get even stronger with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma. But there are times, and you've heard me talk about this, and SEC fans have, at times, if they actually listen to what I'm saying, might pay attention here, that there is an SEC bubble. You look at the top 25, and a team from outside the top 25 might beat somebody in the top 5 or 10. The team in the 5 or 10 doesn't drop very far. The team that wins moves up high. And then it seems like it creates kind of a force field of where you have this big, huge,
it's a safety net.
Oh, you can't drop them. They lost the number 8 team in the country.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you can't drop them again. Yeah, they lost twice, but they lost the number 8 and the number 10. Yeah, I mean, that's all kind of set up.
It does seem to have a little bit of that. And I'm not saying it's not their fault. Again, what if the SEC does is not their fault. They're doing what most anyone in their position would do, including getting bigger, better, faster, stronger. But there does seem to be a little bit of that when it comes to the protection. And in the end, though, the better teams, in the end, they have a lot of them. And now they might at some point even have more, depending on what happens. Who gets better if Texas and Oklahoma, when they arrive, and who's affected with losses because of their arrival. If, in fact, who that might be, some of the middle tier teams in the SEC. All right, when we come back, we continue to.
No, we can keep it here for
all the way through? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Craig, I noticed, and I know you were at that media session Saturday that never started until late into the night. I went back and listened to Dave Aranda, among others, Dylan Doyle, I think it was, and somebody else. But I heard Xavier Newman's name mentioned, Baylor's offensive lineman, quite a bit, as like Dave Aranda even said something about he's in a better place, he's mentally in a safe place. Like he didn't trust people. Did you kind of get some of that as well on Saturday evening?
Well, I'm the one that asked him the follow-up question about specifically Xavier Newman, so yeah, I did. He was very complimentary of him and just said that he feels comfortable now, that they're allowing Xavier to be Xavier, and I don't know. I don't know what his issues were. It just sounds like a guy who maybe just wasn't very trustworthy in some ways. I mean, maybe that's all the change. I don't know. But I asked Dave if, it was him being a senior now, like really a true senior, and he's not going to get another year after this. Like he is done after this year. So, that happens with guys. The writing's on the wall. Your career's almost up. He's probably not going to the NFL the way things stand right now. So, I'm sure that plays into it a little bit. And I guess just, who did have good relationships last year? I mean, with the first-year staff. It was hard to do that. So I think, just time has gone by, and that's help matters as well. But, ultimately all that leadership stuff is great, but he's got to go out and perform. And that's where, that's been a bit hard to come by is consistency for him or really anybody on the O-line. So hopefully that leadership and the stepping up that he's done, that's all been apparently really great. Hopefully that, transitions to the field as well. And if it does, then that would be a big feather in their cap for this O-line because there's a lot of questions about it. And there should be one less question because Xavier Newman should, at this point in his career as a fifth-year senior, be absolutely established at one of those spots and a solidified starter, and he's not. And I think that's problematic. So if he's working his way towards that, great. But if you're a fifth-year senior who is playing as a true freshman and you're not a lock to start, it better be because they recruited a bunch of really good players, which I don't think is the case. I think they recruited some fine players, but I don't think any of them are like so good that they're just hopping over fifth-year guys for playing time. I think that speaks more to the guys who've been around, right? So, like I said, I think it's all great to hear. It was surprising to me, which is why I followed up on it, because we went from never hearing his name to hearing it from like every player that talked. So that's been great, and we'll see how it plays out on the actual football field with wins and losses.
All right, Paul, the Xavier Newman, I thought he was going to be a pretty good star by his second or third year. It just never.
No.
And then last year, a lot of it had to do with Joe Wickline. The offensive line was constantly in flux, and yet we've heard Eric Mateos, he's told me this, he feels like he's got 3 or 4 guys that are and/or, which is frustrating when you release a depth chart when a guy could be the center or the guard or whatever, because you'd rather just see them be in one spot. But Xavier Newman's kind of a center or guard.
Yeah. Well, and they played him center and guard last year, and he never looked like he was stepping the right way at either position. I mean, he was lost in his own head a lot of times last year, and that was a huge thing. I think that if he's not ready to go, I don't think they need to take the risk on it, Craig. I mean, you were saying, like, if he's not ready to go, I think they need to just move on with somebody else, because I think they know what they have in him.
Well, I mean, but if he's your best option, it doesn't matter. Yeah, you're not going to sit a fifth-year senior offensive lineman who's started like 40 games on the bench because he's not getting any better. I mean, he is what you have. So, look, clearly there's one guy who's actually solidified a spot of the 5. There's one guy, Connor Galvin, and he's had it solidified since like last spring. What the other 4 positions are waiting on, I have no idea. Great competition. Hopefully that's the case for their sake. But outside of that, I don't know. But, I mean, I'm just hopeful that, Xavier's better this year. Hopefully he actually lives up to some of his billing, because I felt like he did that as a true freshman, sort of, and then he got worse for the next 4 years, which is not the way it's supposed to happen. So maybe I'm being a little bit too hard, but I really don't think so. I don't think he got progressively better from freshman year to 5th-year senior year. Prove me otherwise if you think so, but I think I've got a pretty good case. It's called watching the film. Like I said, I'll say it a final time, hopefully that translates to the field and he's better on the football field, but it is great to hear what he's done off the field. That's great. It's great to hear him get brought up. But again, he can be the best teammate ever, and if they go out and they win 2 games this year, nobody's going to be talking about how Xavier Newman was a great guy. Maybe his former teammates will, but in terms of the actual product on the field, which is what keeps people's jobs and, keeps the money flowing, it's got to be better than what it's been for the last 4 years. It has to be.
Yeah, I agree. Paul, what do we take it all the way up to 550? Or what?
Yeah, you've had 7 more minutes,
let's see here. This is from, I just mentioned that was from Joey Foster. We mentioned that one. Let's see. 254-339-1122. If you'd like, we have the phone lines back open again. This is from the 256. Enjoy the show on YouTube with Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC. Go to a 9-day game conference schedule, talking about the SEC. Have 3 opponents you play every year. Rotate the other 12. 6 the next. Play every team every 2 years, twice in 4 years. Alabama, Tennessee, LSU, Auburn yearly. Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Alabama yearly. Texas and A&M, Oklahoma, Arkansas yearly. Oklahoma versus Texas, Arky, Missouri yearly, and so on. That's kind of complicated, but I'm sure there's some sort of way they could do that. The thing that, for example, when we've had Mike Scarborough on who covers LSU, the thing that's always been a problem for LSU is Alabama's crossover rivalry is Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Now listen, Tennessee was once really good, but they've been down for a long time. Well, so have a few other blue bloods. And I think Tennessee's on that edge. Are they not just below the blue blood?
I mean, they've won a national title. They've had, in the last 30 years.
I think they're just on the cusp, like they maybe
24.
They're not in that range when you think about some of the top 5 or 10 winningest teams. They got a massive stadium, of course. They've got a beautiful view. It's a big school, but they've been down for a while. But guess who else has been down for a while? Florida State, Nebraska. Texas.
Tennessee's got 6 national titles in football. Yeah. I knew they had way more than one.
My point is that Alabama is the crossover game for Alabama, which in the past would have been a hell of a game. Mm-hmm. But that's their crossover game, and Tennessee is down. LSU's is Florida. Now, Florida hadn't been always lighting it up either, but there's kind of every year.
Or Florida's is LSU. I mean, it seems to be that's the thing. And so they all have their legitimate complaints about that. So, again, I think if in this 16-team thing you have some constant ones that are in the division and then you maybe rotate the crossovers.
Don't do what you're doing now, where Texas and A&M and Georgia don't play for like the first 18 years the Aggies are in the conference, because I just think that's silly. And now I know it's hard to get around to playing 13 different teams when you only play half of them every single year. But, I mean, that's just an absurd way of doing things. That's just dumb. I know they probably couldn't have done it any differently, but if you're going to add Oklahoma and Texas, Florida better play. Every team in the SEC better play them within the first 5 years they're in the league somehow. If they don't, I just think that's just dumb. Why else would you do it? So I've seen a lot of different theories on how to do the schedule, and I'll be interested to see how they do it. I have no dog in the fight as far as how that all works. I'm just a fan from the outside looking in. So pods or cross whatevers or however they do it. I'll be interested to see that because I want to see how often, because then like you have to have Texas playing A&M every year, and you have to have them playing Oklahoma every year, and you have to have them playing Arkansas every year. So there's 3 games right there. You have to have them playing LSU every year, I would think. Mm-hmm. That's 4 games. So, do you do it with the division? So now your 3 or 4 other games are within the division, and then you have I don't know how all that works, but just don't do it to where, there's 15-year gaps between home and away inaugural visits. I just think that's there's got to be a better way to be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And it can be a little bit convoluted, and you're going to have crossover games. For example, if you're A&M and your crossover game has been South Carolina, that's an advantage that it's not Georgia or it's not Florida.
Yeah.
Or it's not, and that doesn't mean it's your fault. Again, it's the way they kind of set things up. What will be very interesting to me, if they set the SEC up into 2 divisions, there is no way in hell you can't have it with Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and A&M and LSU in the same division. Unless there are some sort of under-the-table deals.
Yeah, to not have Missouri, Arkansas, and just take out the Texas schools.
That's the former Big 12 chunk.
Yeah. But just think about it regionally. Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma all they're
long
all
time.
Right there.
Those are Missouri, Oklahoma, Big 8 rivals from back in the day. Big 8. Arkansas right next door. They're on your border.
Yeah.
Texas is on your border. A&M is on your border. Louisiana is attached. I don't know if does Louisiana kind of clip part of Oklahoma or not. Yeah, you have to have them in the same division.
It clips part of Arkansas.
Will be interesting is if somehow those teams are not attached to the same division. Not 4 pods. That's a different story because you can only have 4 in each one. But if somehow or another there's something that's kind of under the table, politicking going on that they're not a part of the same division. You can't explain that otherwise.
Yeah. We also may need to get a Mizzou writer on here.
How about this division?
Because we haven't talked about, A&M was pissed about this from the start. Mizzou has to be too. They were in the same boat.
You never heard a word from them.
Yeah, but I mean, they're also but I'm sure that they're a little bit.
If you took the actual map of the SEC and you took what you just mentioned, the schools I mentioned, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, A&M, Texas, and LSU, and added Alabama and Auburn. Holy my God. There'll be some, you talk about people talking about whining because the Big 12 8's trying to figure out who their future is. You talk about, I think there would be, no. Mm-hmm. You're talking about, you get flipped on that schedule?
Yeah. It's not good. But the SEC, and look, whatever the SEC does, it will work out for them.
Oh, of course. And they'll all get along and vote unanimously because that's what they do.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, you mock it, but I'd much rather have that than have the Big 12 where they just stab each other in the back and talk S to each other behind closed doors. I mean, at least there's some unity. Maybe that's why they're, going and able to poach Texas and Oklahoma while the other ones are sitting on their hands talking about everything's cool here. We don't need to expand or anything. Meanwhile, you're just getting your best team still in the middle of the night because you're completely oblivious to it. So, I mean, they get the love for a reason, and they pull off moves like the one they pulled off this offseason that completely changes the complexion of the entire sport. So, for people that like it, love it, whatever, I mean, it's the reality that they are the power broker in college football. And now, there's at least some other group that's formed to try and counteract that. With the whole alliance thing, but again, what does that really boil down to? What decisions does that really entail that are game-changing? Or is it everybody's just kind of got the same opinion anyways? So that alliance may mean a lot. It may mean absolutely nothing in the long run. It might not matter at all. Yeah, just lots of questions. I mean, there's lots to speculate about, but so far we don't have a whole lot of answers.
Here is one text that will put everything into perspective. We can sit there and argue about who should be where or who's strong enough to survive and what. This is from Matt in D.C., who's been with us since day one. Remember the people of Afghanistan today. I personally buried buddies in Section 60 in Arlington Cemetery, and I don't know what we can say to them after the events of yesterday. Matt, appreciate it. I know you served our country, and people have their own opinions, this and that, but we appreciate your text as well. When we come back, Paul's top 5.
BetUS.com has been serving clients for 25 years and prides itself on being known as America's favorite sports book. With action on every sport across the world, we can pretty much guarantee that we've got your game, and BetUS offers the industry's biggest retail bonuses to keep our players betting longer. The BetUS loyalty program is legendary. They keep their players up to date with articles, players, team stats, and trends, giving you the right tools to make the best wagering decisions. And look, right now you can get a 125% bonus on a deposit of $100 or more, or $200 if you use crypto. So use either Sikkim 125 or Sikkim 200 for those things. So Sikkim 125 and Sikkim 200 on BetUS.com, or just go and click the link on Sikkim365.com.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Marco's Pizza, get craveable pizza made the Italian way, with dough made from scratch, an original sauce recipe, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and premium toppings you love, served hot and safe. Right now, you can get unlimited medium one-topping pizzas for just $6.99 each. Why stop at just one? Order with your app or at marcos.com for curbside, carryout, or delivery today. Marco's, pizza lovers get it.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store.
Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Carr Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Carr. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Carr Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers, and dog dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55. Presented by Slapsticks Comedy Club. For ticket information, go to slapstickscomedy.com.
Had a great weekend this weekend at Slapstick Comedy Club, a great improv show on Saturday night. Paul Varghese from Dallas, fantastic comic. Look him up if you haven't seen him, was just tearing the roof off all three shows. So great comics coming up. Get your tickets at slapstickscomedy.com. Top 5 QBs I'm curious to see. This actually wound up in a top 6 because Hayden, who does the graphics, told me that I left one off, and he would not let me do it unless I did a bonus one at the end, guys. So just know that. Hayden put his foot down. Are you surprised?
So it's no longer the top 5 because you have made an exception.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of afraid of Hayden. Like, he looks like a nice guy, and he's thin and skinny and all that stuff.
He can algorithm your, you know what, out of existence.
That's why. I'm afraid of his brain. I'm afraid of his brain. All right. Yeah. So, all right. Number 5, JT Daniels of Georgia. Let's see what a full year means for this guy, the USC transfer. Is he going to be good? That mustache is really strange on that thing. But
why is it anytime somebody has a mustache, it looks like it's what we have to think it's strange?
Well, I mean, that particular mustache, like if
looks
it's
like
Tom
he painted
Selleck,
it on. Yeah.
Like Tom Selleck, it's not strange. But I'm curious to see what JT Daniels can do at Georgia. We talked to Anthony Dasher earlier, and with a full year, he might be a whole lot better.
Okay, when your eyebrows are thicker than the mustache, there's a problem.
Yeah, that should be the rule, right?
Sorry to jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, Craig.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I'll say something JT Daniels did that's really cool is he's going to split his NIL money with his teammates. I think that's a pretty neat deal that he announced that he's going to be receiving certain earnings from his $100 signature. He's going to be charging $100 per signature, and he's going to split 50% of the royalties on unsigned and signed cards, half of that with Georgia teammates. So that'll ingratiate him. Now, still got to play well for them to truly wrap their arms around you. But, there's a lot of hype for him, a lot of expectations for Georgia as we've documented, and excited to see what he does.
Well, and you got to play well so people want that signature.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Number 4, Mackenzie Milton at Florida State. Now, look, they've got 2 quarterbacks, Mackenzie Milton and Jordan Travis, who are going to play. But Mackenzie Milton, look, just as a football fan, I know this one, affects me personally a lot, but just to see a guy come back from the injury that he had would be excellent. It would be excellent, and he could really, veteran leadership could really help that team that's been stuck in just a bog for the last 5 years or so.
He has the it factor. He makes plays. He's tough as hell, and of course we know what he did with UCF. What was that? Been 4 years ago? Mm-hmm. Has it been 4 years?
4 years since he did that. Yeah, so. Yeah.
All right.
So, very curious about that one. Jordan Travis is the other quarterback there. He will play. He's an athlete, but he's not – I don't know if he's a quarterback yet. He's an athlete who plays quarterback as opposed to a quarterback who's an athlete, and I think Mike Norvell would like to flip that a little bit for Jordan Travis. Number 3, Tyler Shuck from Texas Tech. There's been so much quarterback flux at that school in particular. Alan Bowman's in Michigan and, Jet – all those different things, and does he help stabilize him at least for a year? Because Matt Wells really, 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 really needs that.
I think he's a good player. Watched him a bit at Oregon, but I don't know that he's the savior for Matt Wells. I don't know that he's going to be so good that he just completely changes the dynamic of that team. I just don't know what Texas Tech is right now. I mean, they're more of a defensive team than they're an offensive team, which is just strange.
Enormous amount of pressure on Wells to win.
Well, yeah, because they've been average at best. I mean, they've not been anything, and I'm not sitting here acting like the team that I cover is just the end-all, be-all by any means, but, I mean, what has been notable about Texas Tech football for, like, the last 4 or 5 years?
Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah. Nothing has been notable about them. I mean, really. So, this is a huge year. He was a big get. You hope that they can have some of that Oregon offensive success in Lubbock, and if they do, then maybe that's what kickstarts a new era in Lubbock for Matt Wells. But yeah, it's going to be a week-by-week type of year, I think, for Texas Tech fans.
Yeah. Number 2, Jack Cohn at Notre Dame won the starting job, has a fantastic offensive line, has got some playmakers. But again, there's a reason he's not at Wisconsin anymore. And so he was the second best guy there, and now he's the first best guy at Notre Dame. So we'll see. I mean, that's I'm curious about, because Notre Dame's roster outside of him is pretty loaded. Yeah, it's one of the better ones they've had in a long, long time.
I'm glad you brought them up. The 202.
Oh, he sent us a bunch of stuff.
No, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he's incredibly passionate about Notre Dame and feels like sometimes they're overlooked, and they're in the top 10. I mean, maybe they should be 4 or 6 or whatever. And I mean, they were really good last year when the ACC beat Clemson. But, yeah, he was talking about Cohn when you had a list before among the transfer quarterbacks.
Well, he had a big year 2 years ago at Wisconsin, and, Joe Burrow didn't start off at LSU. And I'm not saying Jack Cohn's Joe Burrow, so nobody freak out in the chat, but you never know what a change of scenery is going to do for a guy. Justin Fields didn't start off where he started up. You know what I mean? So, transfer quarterbacks, just because you transfer, it's not always they can't find playing time or they're not good enough to beat out that guy. Sometimes that's the case, for sure. But, sometimes, a guy's just a better fit somewhere else. So we'll see if Cohn's the guy that can put Notre Dame over the top.
Yeah. At number 1, Emory Jones at Florida. This is one of their highest recruited players in the last few years. He's played in spots, and he's been, he's flashed some good things. But, again, it's a roster that's really loaded at Florida under Dan Mullen. And this is a guy who's been inconsistent. But Dan Mullen's shown that he can rein quarterbacks in a bit. So Emory Jones is the big hope for Florida to get over the hump from being, a good team in the SEC to a team that can win the SEC. And they've got a good roster outside of him. We'll just see if Emory Jones can take that next step.
Yeah. Tell me. I guess so. That's a. You think he's going to be a difference maker?
I mean, could be. I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. It's like sometimes you watch him, you're like, holy cow, this kid's an athlete and a half. And other times you're like, I don't know if he's playing the same game everybody else is.
Yeah.
Or if he's in the same spot. So, and they had they hit it big with Kyle Trask. I mean, that was a diamond in the rough to end all diamonds in the rough. So the guy was a backup in high school to De'Aaron King, and they got him, and he wound up being great for the Gators. So we'll see. But Emory Jones takes over there, and look, has a ton of athletic talent and a lot of upside. But he's got to be a quarterback and not just an athlete to win the SEC.
Well, I mean, he can sling the ball. He can run around too. But like you said, great athlete. I think he's got a little bit of an it factor to him. He's obviously waited long enough now at this point. So hey, take the opportunity and seize it. I mean, you're the guy now. You've been waiting to be the guy. Now you're the guy. So big shoes to fill, like you mentioned, following Trask's performance last year. But I don't know. I like what little I've seen of Emory Jones, and it'll be cool to see what he does with the Gators.
It's amazing. You wonder where, and this is a question about Texas, where they would be had the transfer portal been in existence when they lost out and did not cultivate, or he did not play well in Garrett Gilbert. It took him 10 years. Well, not quite. Ellinger was pretty good. In fact, he played pretty well over the weekend. But, man, that's a decade where some teams were looking for a quarterback. And now you can get them just like that, even though it doesn't always doesn't mean it always works.
And for Sam, I mean, there's been positive reports coming out of camp for him, but he played well the other night. It's amazing what NFL coaches can do with talent.
Yeah. Don Williams, Lubbock Avalanche Journal on Kirby Hokut's response to the story about the alliance outside of the Big 12. Also, Eli Letterman, Tulsa World and Oklahoma State. Max Olson, Athletic.com, and Anthony Dasher on Georgia. Thanks to JD's in the studio right now. Jack McKenzie finally showed up. Also, thanks to Hayden and A-Rob.
And Armstrong the bonus.
Sims.
And the bonus, Haynes King. I'm sorry, I almost forgot. Haynes King from A&M. Hasn't officially won the job yet, why he wasn't on the list, but Haynes King from A&M.
God, how much you wanted to extend it?
I didn't know. I didn't want to extend it. Hayden wanted to extend it.
I think it'd be silly though. We got to go here, but it'd be silly not to mention him. I mean, they're a top 5, top 10 team. He's the guy who's like the missing piece, and there's a lot of hype from Longview High School and all that he did there. So yeah, absolutely.
His senior year at Longview though just wasn't that great. It was great his junior year, and they won it all. But I know his father. We know John. He's great. Good luck to him as well. Okay. For Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, I'm David Smoak. Thank you for watching, listening, or both. Sikkim 365 Radio.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.